As for Zhang Chaoyang, even though Zhou Hao was not a specialist in IT, he was familiar with him. This was because the Dr. Zhang Chaoyang, who was addressed as Dr. Zhang, was the founder of one of the 4 big websites in China, Hunting Fox. In his previous life, Zhou Hao was quite familiar with Zhang Chaoyang's entrepreneurship experience. After Zhang Chaoyang graduated from Tsinghua University, he went to MIT to study for a PhD. After he had some success in his studies, he first became the contact person in the MIT Asia-Pacific region, China, and then became the chief representative of the American ISI company in China. In 1996, Zhang Chaoyang established the Adel Trust Company with the support of Risk Investments, and in February 1998, the Iowa Trust Company officially launched this Searching Fox product, and in July of 2000, it successfully went public in the United States, NASDAQ, and gradually developed into one of the 4 major websites in China. The other 3 most famous websites were Swoosh, Tencent, and these companies that could call the shots in the China internet market in the future started to develop in these few years. After Zhao Zibang learned that Zhang Chaoyang's Hunting Fox had been established, he keenly saw the huge business opportunity hidden within. Thus, he quickly returned from America to see if he could take advantage of the rapid development of the internet in China to get a share of the pie. Without a doubt, Zhao Zibang's business eye was very good. Zhou Hao asked, "Zibang, then what do you plan to do? Investing in Zhang Chaoyang's Hunting Fox?" Zhao Zibang nodded heavily. "That's right, little uncle. I plan to find some investors interested in the internet to raise funds. Then, I will invest in Searching Fox and get Searching Fox to be listed on the market in NASDAQ in the United States. With the current development of the IT industry. In addition, China is a huge market with unlimited progress. When Searching Fox is listed in NASDAQ, it will definitely soar." Zhou Hao also agreed with Zhao Zibang's plan. He smiled and said, "Then have you found a sponsor?" Zhao Zibang instantly vented his anger. "Not yet. Dad originally said that he could help me find a few bosses, but I don't want to rely on my family's relationship. Furthermore, those people must have been willing to invest in me for Dad's sake. I don't want to be like this, making myself look like a beggar." "What beggar? Your words are really unreliable." Zhao Dingzhou cursed in a rough voice, but he wasn't really angry. Perhaps because he was influenced by the independent thinking in the West, Zhao Zibang did not want to rely on the power of his family to achieve his goal. This would make him look useless. He hoped to rely on his own free hands to build his family, even if the government and the business did not separate from each other since ancient times. However, Zhao Zibang would rather befriend himself and build his own network of connections than rely on the protection of his family. Old Master Zhao admired Zhao Zibang's ambition, so he did not force him. At this time, Zhou Hao smiled and said, "Actually, I am quite interested in the new industry of internet." Hearing Zhou Hao's words, Zhao Zibang's eyes lit up. How could he forget? This little uncle in front of him was one of the richest men in the country, although not many people knew about the huge fortune in his hands. "Uncle, you mean you can invest in me?" Zhao Zibang looked at Zhou Hao with anticipation. "That's right, but can you guarantee that you will be able to control the shares of the Searching Fox?" Zhou Hao said seriously. Zhao Zibang did not agree immediately because he knew that people like Zhang Chaoyang, who were skilled and ambitious, valued the control of the company very much. It would not be easy to control the shares of Hunting Fox. After weighing the pros and cons in his heart, Zhao Zibang gritted his teeth and said, "This is not an easy task, but I am confident that I can do it." "All right, then I will believe you." Zhou Hao sincerely admired the Zhao family. People in China often said that they were only 3 generations richer, but this iron law didn't seem to exist in the Zhao family. As a person who had single-handedly risen up the Zhao family, Zhao Rixin's current achievements were already big enough. Zhao Dingzhou was also a general who guarded a region. The importance of the Guangzhou military region was self-evident. Being able to become the commander of this large military region and manage hundreds of thousands of soldiers from both armies naturally could not completely rely on Zhao Rixin's support. Zhao Dingzhou's own ability and achievements were the most direct reason. Furthermore, Zhou Hao had already heard Zhao Rixin mention it when he was in Beijing the last time. In the latest year 2000, Zhao Dingzhou would be awarded the rank of general and become the youngest general in the country. There was also Zhao Yuqin. Although she was a girl, her talent was no less than any man's. Zhao Yuqin was the first person who contributed to Zhou Hao's Heavenly River being able to develop to this day. In the 3rd generation, although Zhao Zibang did not have the intention to enter politics or join the army, and was very keen on doing business, Zhou Hao could see that Zhao Zibang's talent was extraordinary. He would definitely become a tycoon in the future. And now, Zhou Hao was not only Zhao Rixin's foster son, he had also established a relationship with Zhao Yuqin. so he could be considered a real member of the Zhao family. Therefore, the future of Zhao family would only become more and more prosperous. But Zibang, we just need to get control of the shares and manage the operations well. As for the technical aspects, Zhang Chaoyang and the rest will be in charge. After all, for the IT industry, you and I are outsiders. Zhou Hao said. Of course. From a certain point of view, we are all capitalists. We should make use of our capital to make profits. We can't control those technical things even if we want to. Zhao Zibang said. Then, little uncle, how much capital are you prepared to invest? Zhou Hao frowned and thought for a while, then said, 400 million. Although I can't withdraw most of my money now, 400 million is not a problem. Hunting Fox is still in the early stages of development. 400 million yuan should be enough. I think this amount should be enough to move Zhang Chaoyang and the others. Zhou Hao shook his head. I am not talking about RMB, I am talking about USD. However, I don't want to spend all my money on Searching Fox. As for the Searching Fox, 100 million US dollars is enough. Zhao Zibang had lived in the United States for a few years, and he was used to using USD to measure money. However, when he returned to the country this time, he deliberately changed this habit, which meant that Zhou Hao was talking about RMB just now. He said, what about the other 300 million? Little uncle, do you have other goals? That's right. Apart from Searching Fox, I also have a website called Webbies. Compared to Searching Fox, Webbies was established a little earlier, and it started to develop last year. However, the current situation isn't too good. It should be easier to obtain their controlling shares than Searching Fox. In fact, Zhou Hao had already been interested in the Nasdaq market in the United States. However, most of his funds were still stuck in Asia, and he would only be able to withdraw them in May. Moreover, Nasdaq wouldn't rise too much in a short period of time, so Zhou Hao wasn't in a hurry. But now, since Zhao Zibang was interested in investing in the IT industry, Zhou Hao was happy to support him. Although he could not enter Nasdaq on a large scale, it was not difficult to take over the 4 big websites in China before the development of the network reached its peak. Easy Internet and Searching for Foxes were still in the early stages of development. Xinlong and Tencent also needed to enter the market at the end of this year. When these 4 major websites were in dire need of financial support, they didn't need much capital to seize control of them. 400 million US dollars was more than enough. Zhou Hao was very clear about the influence of the Internet in the future in China. At this time, China also had the largest network community in the world. The power of netizens was extremely shocking, and the Internet would become the fastest media in the world. Since Zhou Hao had established the North Pole Star Entertainment Media Company that was developing faster and faster, he naturally did not want to miss out on the big cake of online media. When the time came, they would combine into one, and the impact would be unimaginable. Zibang, I'll transfer the 400 million US dollars to your account first. You'll be in charge of buying shares of WebTrade and Searching Fox. You can also do things with other companies with potential. Okay, I got it, little uncle. Zhao Zibang was very grateful to Zhou Hao. 400 million US dollars was not something that anyone could take out just because they wanted to. And this was Zhou Hao's trust in him. After talking to Zhao Zibang about some of the details, Zhou Hao said goodbye to Zhao Dingzhou. Riding on the special vehicle that Zhao Dingzhou had arranged for him, Zhou Hao quickly returned to Xiang City. Lei Hu had already sent the 3 injured subordinates to the military hospital in Xiang City. They were fine now, and Xiao Nanyue and Xiao Jiming had also returned to Xiang City. Jiming, let's have dinner together tonight. Sure. Qingqing is also in Xiang City, right? Come with her. Xiao Jiming said on the phone. Zhou Hao's heart skipped a beat. He was afraid that Xiao Jiming would not give up on Yin Qingqing. Zhou Hao sighed deeply. Fine. He might as well tell him what had happened, so that he would not have any fantasies about Sister Qingqing. They had booked a private room in Tianbin Hotel as usual. Since Xiao Jiming's home was close to Tianbin Hotel, they had arrived a long time ago. When they arrived at the door of the room with Zhou Hao, Yin Qingqing said worriedly, Xiao Hao, if Mr. Xiao knew about it, would there be a barrier between you and him? She was very afraid that Zhou Hao and Xiao Jiming would fall out because of her. Zhou Hao held her hand tightly and smiled at her. I believe Jiming won't do this. Even if he really won't forgive me, I won't leave you. Yin Qingqing nodded when she saw Zhou Hao's firm gaze. The two of them pushed open the door and entered, intending to settle this matter with Xiao Jiming. Zhou Hao only found out when he entered the private room. It wasn't just Xiao Nanyue and Xiao Jiming. There were also 5 young men who weren't even 30 years old. Beside Xiao Jiming sat a beautiful woman in her 20s. Zhou Hao recognized this woman. She was Xiao Jiming's high school classmate, Du Yijuan. She was currently working in the Siyao family's pharmacy. Her brother, Du Fenghai, had his limbs crippled because he had hurt Yin Qingqing. Later, he was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Xiao Nanyue and Xiao Jiming were very happy to see Zhou Hao and Yin Qingqing. When they saw Zhou Hao and Yin Qingqing locked fingers, Xiao Jiming was surprised. He thought that Yin Qingqing was Zhou Hao's cousin. It was not strange for them to be so close, but even if they were siblings, they should not have locked fingers like a couple. Zhou Hao Yin gently looked at Xiao Jiming's stunned expression and felt uncomfortable in his heart. But this matter had to be settled sooner or later. They could not drag it out any longer, so they braced their scalps and walked forward. Zhou Hao also smiled at Xiao Nanyue and Xiao Jiming. Senior brother, Jiming, you are finally back. Martial uncle, you and Qingqing. Xiao Jiming stared at their tightly clasped hands. Jiming, actually, we have wanted to tell you about this a long time ago. Zhou Hao said, cousin Qingqing and I were actually together a long time ago. When Xiao Jiming heard this, the surprise on his face became even greater. Seeing that Yin Qingqing did not deny it, he smiled bitterly and said, so that's how it is. I see. No wonder Qingqing. Hee. At that time, I thought that she was the brother who liked Yi Jun. Uncle Master, you really are. Why didn't you tell me earlier? You caused me to be confused for so long. Zhou Hao saw that Xiao Jiming was not as excited as he had imagined. Instead, he appeared very calm. He felt relieved in his heart. Jiming, you don't blame us? What can we blame you for? Xiao Jiming shook his head and said, this relationship can't be forced. Besides, I have already thought it through. Besides, I am very relieved to be with you. Hearing Xiao Jiming's words, Zhou Hao and Yin Qingqing finally felt relieved. Yin Qingqing also said from the bottom of her heart, Mr. Xiao, thank you. When the men on the other side suddenly heard that they had such an emotional entanglement, they were also very surprised, but they didn't say anything. After all, it wasn't something they could interrupt. Du Yijuan looked at Xiao Jiming with a gentle expression. Xiao Nanyue also smiled. That's good too. Xiao Hao is my junior brother, and Qingqing is his cousin. If Jiming is really with Qingqing, then wouldn't the seniority be all messed up? Xiao Jiming smiled at Zhou Hao and Qingqing. Actually, I also have something to tell you. This time, I came back with Dad not only to rest, but also to do something else. He stretched out his hand and held Du Yijuan's hand. He said to Zhou Hao and Yin Qingqing, I want to marry Yijuan. Zhou Hao and Yin Qingqing were shocked. When they saw the intimate expression of Xiao Jiming and Du Yijuan, they finally understood what was going on. Zhou Hao also felt very happy. It seemed that Du Yijuan had played a great role in getting Xiao Jiming out of Yin Qingqing's quagmire so quickly. He sincerely said, congratulations. After the knot in their hearts was settled, the few of them were very happy. Xiao Nanyue also introduced the few men to Zhou Hao. Xiao Hao, we met the 5 of them when we were looking for medicine outside. They were all very talented people on the traditional Chinese medicine. There were also 2 experts who were experts in collecting mountain herbs. They were very good at identifying and searching for mountain herbs. The 5 of them have already become our disciples. After saying that, he said to the 5 of them, hurry up and meet Martial Uncle. The 5 people quickly stood up and bowed deeply to Zhou Hao. Hello, Martial Uncle. These 5 men were the same as Xiao Jiming. None of them were younger than Zhou Hao. Now, all of them had become Zhou Hao's junior disciples. Zhou Hao had gotten used to the issue of seniority. On the other hand, Yin Qingqing felt a little awkward. She secretly thought that she would become the uncle master mother of these people. Zhou Hao also agreed with Xiao Nanyue's acceptance of these 5 disciples. This was because Xiao Nanyue and the others needed to search for the mountain herbs scattered across the country. It was always good to have a few more people to help. In the future, when Zhou Hao's pharmaceutical company was established, there would be many talents in traditional Chinese medicine. These 5 people would be recognized by Xiao Nanyue. They must have extraordinary talent. After that, Xiao Nanyue and Xiao Jiming talked about the results of the search for herbs with Zhou Hao. Xiao Jiming said, Martial Uncle, we have found most of the herbs you asked us to find. Only a small part of them are missing. We estimate that those herbs are likely extinct. Zhou Hao could understand this result. Because with the development of human beings, many plants and animals were extinct. It was already very rare for Xiao Jiming and the others to be able to find most of the herbs. Xiao Jiming handed a piece of information to Zhou Hao. This is the information about the herbs that we have sorted out, including the living conditions and various characteristics that they need. Martial Uncle, some of these herbs are already very rare. In 10 years at most, after 10 years, they may become extinct one after another. So we have to quickly develop them manually. Dad and I have done our research as well. These herbs can grow through artificial cultivation, but the difficulty is different. Zhou Hao read the document while listening to Xiao Jiming. He kept nodding his head. The information Xiao Jiming and the others made was very detailed, including the conditions needed to concoct these herbs. Senior brother, Jiming, if we want to mass-produce these herbs through artificial cultivation, how much money do you think we need? Closing this information, Zhou Hao asked them. Xiao Nanyue and Xiao Jiming looked at each other. Xiao Nanyue said, "We are not good at finance, so we do not have specific numbers. However, in order to produce these herbs artificially, we need the various experimental funds from the front, plus the official planting and mass production from the back. If we want to satisfy the domestic needs, we estimate that we need at least 20 billion renminbi. Moreover, this is only the funds needed for the planting base. The processing and production of the medicine also needs to be calculated. This needs to be calculated by professionals." Zhou Hao leaned back in his chair and thought about this problem. The most important thing for a large-scale herb plantation base was land. The price of land was naturally not as shocking as the price of land in the city. However, different herbs required different conditions of land. This would require some effort. 20 billion yuan, Zhou Hao could not take it out in one go yet. The money had been placed in the financial market of Asia and could not be transferred in a short period of time. Furthermore, due to the previous attack on the Fengshan Group, the audit of large loans by the state-owned banks was very strict. Even with the Zhao family at the back, it was estimated that they would not be able to get so many loans. Instead, it would cause a bad impact to the Zhao family. Furthermore, there was also the processing and production of the medicine, as well as various high-end production equipment and factories. The funds required would not be less than the planting base. Therefore, it was impossible for Zhou Hao to build the medicine company in a short period of time. Fortunately, Zhou Hao's medicine company did not have any time limit. Zhou Hao's biggest reliance on financial investment was his memories from his previous life, but those memories had a time limit. After that period of historical development, Zhou Hao's investment also lost its effectiveness. As the prescription in Shen Nong's herbal classics was much more advanced than modern medicine, at least it had never appeared when Zhou Hao was killed in his previous life. Therefore, Zhou Hao set up the medicine company later. The technological advantage did not change. It would be fine as long as it was before those medicinal herbs were extinct. Xiao Jiming told Zhou Hao that he and Du Yijuan were planning to get married in March and continue looking for herbs in April. Zhou Hao naturally did not object and said, "Jiming, this time when you go out, besides looking for medicine, you should also pay attention to which places are suitable for us to grow crops." "Okay, I will pay attention to them." Everyone was very satisfied with this meal. When they returned home, Yin Qingqing hugged Zhou Hao's arm and smiled. "That's great. Mr. Xiao didn't blame us. He even married Sister Du." Compared to Zhou Hao, she felt more guilty. She always felt that she had hurt Xiao Jiming. Now that she saw that he had regained his spirit and had a lover with Du Yijuan, she felt relieved and happy for them in the bottom of her heart. Zhou Hao also hugged her slender waist. "That's right. In order to celebrate the completion of this matter, let's have a good time." After saying that, he carried her horizontally to the room under Yin Qingqing's exclamation. After that, the two of them went on the bed to invert dragons and phoenixes to their heart's content. Only after Yin Qingqing was tormented until she could not help begging for mercy did Zhou Hao finally let it go. After taking a shower, Zhou Hao sat in front of the computer. At this time, the computer was still the same kind of heavy and bulky big guy. Moreover, its functions were much less compared to the future, and even Tencent QQ had not appeared yet. To Zhou Hao, the current computer was just like a typing machine. It was only slightly more convenient than handwritten writing. Currently, Zhou Hao was using the computer to write a television script. It was all very classic and popular television dramas from his previous life. For example, The Domestic Soldier Assault, My Regiment Commander, My Regiment, The TVB Fleeting Time, Golden Branch Desire, and the Japanese One Liter of Tears. Now, Asia Television Limited had begun to prepare the winter love song and blue romance of life and death that Zhou Hao had given them, and I Have a Date with Zombies and Traversing Four Seas were already being filmed. The original Founding Era produced by the TVB had also become part of the Asia Television Limited's annual plan because of its original creation. Zhou Hao wrote the classic TV series according to his memory. Yin Qingqing would occasionally pass him a cup of warm tea, which made Zhou Hao feel like he was an ancient scholar. The people who were supposed to be in TVB producing, Founding Era, and Sin of the Golden Branch, including the director and the production team behind the scenes, etc. Due to the ruthless performance of TVB and Asia Television Limited, when they snatched the copyright of Millionaire, even Zhang Yuling, who was known as one of the TVB's Three Treasures, was treated as an abandoned child. Therefore, a large number of people behind the scenes in the TVB had left and joined the Asia Television Limited, allowing them to expand their manpower. I Have a Date with Zombies 2, Traversing Four Seas, and Zhou Hao's Blue Romance of Life and Death and Winter Romance, and so on. With enough scripts, the self-made dramas in the Asia Television Limited for the next 4 or 5 years were packed tightly. The first episode of Pearl Returning Gage that was broadcasted during the Spring Festival was just as Zhou Hao had expected. It set off a huge wave in Hong Kong, catching Wireless Television Limited off guard. And in Pearl Returning Gage, after the first episode ended, the highlights of the Asia Television Limited in 1998 were Blue Romance of Life and Death and Meteor Garden. At the end of the year, they arranged for Zombie 2 to be broadcasted. The filming of Meteor Garden in China was nearing its end. Chai Zhiding was indeed very talented, and with sufficient funding, the filming went very smoothly. Zhou Hao had once seen the finished products that Chai Zhiding had brought back. Whether it was the filming, or the scenes, or the clothing of characters, they were all better than the original Meteor Garden. As for the movie that was also taken from Xiamen University, let's look at Meteor Shower. It was completely different from the previous one. Regarding this, Zhou Hao was very satisfied. At the same time, he reminded Chai Zhiding to pay attention to the packaging of the F4 and make all preparations. Zhou Hao wrote the script in front of the computer. Yin Qingqing was half lying on the bed, holding a book in her hand. She was a legendary and tragic figure in China, Guan Lu's collection. At this moment, Zhou Hao's phone rang. Zhou Hao subconsciously looked at the clock on the wall. It was almost midnight. Who would look for him? Yin Qingqing had already put the phone close to his ear. Is it Zhou Hao? Big boss. Zhou Hao immediately recognized the voice on the phone. It's me. Hee. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to bother you so late at night. However, I'm really in a hurry, so I have no choice but to do this. Big Boss said apologetically. It's okay. Big Boss, aren't you in Indonesia? Is there a problem? According to Zhou Hao's knowledge, with Big Boss and Fourth Boss and Li Shuihan as the leaders, First Arm, he had been on a mission in Indonesia during this period of time. He must have called this time because of Indonesia. Zhou Hao thought to himself, if there was a financial problem in Indonesia, the first to know and react should be the people from Galaxy Investment. Therefore, Big Boss was obviously not doing this for financial matters. Big Boss said, it's like this. Originally, I was in charge of the matters in Indonesia, but I just received orders from the bureau chief and the others that I need to immediately go to another place to carry out a top-secret mission. Although it's not like the First Army can't operate normally without me, the mission in Indonesia is of great importance. I need a capable person to oversee it. Zhou Hao, your martial arts is not any weaker than mine, and you were the first to suggest Indonesia's plan. Thus, I want you to come over and watch. I have already asked the 3 chiefs, and they also agreed to let you go. It all depends on your own opinion. Zhou Hao was deep in thought. He originally planned to go to Indonesia, whether it was for the central government's plan or to prevent the tragedy, but he originally planned to leave in April. He did not expect Big Boss to leave Indonesia at the last minute. After thinking for a while, Zhou Hao said, okay, I promise you. That's great. Thank you, Zhou Hao. All right, I'm about to leave. I can't say so much. Someone will come to find you tomorrow. They will also help you arrange your trip to Indonesia. That's all. Goodbye. Yin Qingqing looked at Zhou Hao, who was smiling bitterly, and asked, Xiao Hao, what's wrong? Cousin, it seems that I can't spend the Lantern Festival with you. I have to go to Indonesia tomorrow. Zhou Hao said helplessly. Hearing this, Yin Qingqing's eyes became bitter. She said, why are you going out again after only coming back for a few days? It can't be helped, cousin. This is a national affair. Zhou Hao sat on the bed and hugged Yin Qingqing in his arms to comfort her. Yin Qingqing also knew that she could only complain. Moreover, if Zhou Hao really delayed the official business for her, she really did not want to see it. Next, because Zhou Hao was about to leave. So even though Yin Qingqing had been tormented by Zhou Hao until her whole body went limp, she still hardened her scalp and went to the Shaman Mountain with Zhou Hao for an entire night to fight fiercely. Early in the morning the next day, Yin Qingqing was still limp on the bed due to extreme fatigue and was unwilling to wake up. Zhou Hao went to the living room to call Li Ruolin. When Li Ruolin heard that Zhou Hao was about to go to Indonesia, she was as resentful as Yin Qingqing. You have only been back for a few days. Why are you leaving again? You really have so many things to do? Hearing Li Ruolin's grumpy tone, Zhou Hao helplessly said, I have no choice, Sister Lan. These were the words of the few people in the middle. They could not shirk from it. I promise you that I will come back to see you after I finish my business, okay? Okay, Li Ruolin replied with a muffled voice. Oh right, you should also say goodbye to Yun Air. Then Zhou Hao heard Yun Er's sweet and soft voice over the phone. Brother Zhou Hao, are you leaving? Yun Er can't bear to part with you. Zhou Hao was also very reluctant to part with Yun Er, who was as cute as an angel. He said, Yun Er, be good. Brother will be back soon. During the time when Big Brother is not around, you have to listen to Sister Land's words well. Yes, Yun Er will be obedient. After chatting with Yun Er for a while, Zhou Hao heard someone ring the doorbell. He knew that it should be the person Big Boss talked about who came to find him. He said goodbye to Yun Er on the phone and then went to open the door for the person. As expected, there were two men in suits standing outside the door. When they saw Zhou Hao, they asked, Is this Mr. Zhou Hao? Yes, I am. Please come in. After entering the room, one of them said to Zhou Hao, Hello, Mr. Zhou. We are members of the First Army. We are responsible for your arrival in Indonesia. When can you leave? Anytime. Therefore, Zhou Hao went back to his room and said goodbye to Yan Qingqing. He took some clothes to change into and left with the two people from the First Army. They went straight to the airport and boarded a flight to Indonesia. The people from First Army were quite considerate. They arranged a comfortable first-class cabin for Zhou Hao. On the plane, the two men from the First Army said to Zhou Hao, Mr. Zhou, on this trip to Indonesia, the higher-ups arranged for you to be the special consultant of the First Army. You will be promoted to Major General. However, only our internal staff knows about this. On the surface, you are just an ordinary tourist from Indonesia. Zhou Hao nodded. He knew his identity as a special consultant and his rank as a Major General. In fact, it was only temporary. After this incident in Indonesia was over, these identities would be removed. Moreover, the rank of Major General was high enough, but it did not have any actual military power. It was just a false title. He asked, How far has Indonesia progressed? Ever since the financial crisis broke out, Suharto's regime has been in danger. The conflict in Indonesia's society has become more and more intense. The government and the people are becoming more and more dissatisfied with the military. The man explained to Zhou Hao, just as we expected. Suharto's government claimed that the most direct reason for the outbreak of the financial crisis was that the local people controlled more than half of Indonesia's economy. Now, many people have been instigated by Suharto, and their hostility towards the local people has become more and more serious. Another person said, We have already arranged spies around the governors of the Indonesian provinces. We even bribed a few members of the Congress with the help of the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce. Other than that, we also secretly set up defensive bases in the factories, manors, and residential areas under the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce. If the Tanhua incident happens, those places will become the local shelter. Zhou Hao also knew that so far, Indonesia's economy had declined a lot due to the second outbreak of the financial storm, and Indonesia's shield had greatly depreciated. This caused Zhou Hao and the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce, who acted as the biggest pushover, to earn huge profits, as well as social problems caused by economic reasons, to become more and more serious. The chairman of the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce, Pang Jinting, told Zhou Hao that Suharto's family had already transferred funds to other countries. It seemed like Suharto had already prepared a backup plan for himself. He heard that person say, Chairman Pang has passed the evidence of Suharto's family's corruption to Wahid. He is ready to announce it officially to the media at the end of this month. However, Suharto seems to have received some news. In this half a month, Wahid was assassinated 3 times. So we have arranged a lot of people to protect him now. In order to avoid being in the limelight, Suharto also went to Europe last week. Zhao Rixin and Big Boss had already told Zhou Hao that the central government had decided to push Wahid to the throne of president of Indonesia. In return, China would obtain the priority of mining all kinds of resources in Indonesia. Although they could not openly develop Indonesia in the name of China, they could still be considered to have profited greatly. Jakarta is also known as Coconut City, the capital of Indonesia and also the largest city in Indonesia and Southeast Asia. After leaving the airport, Zhou Hao boarded the First Army car that came to pick him up. Through the window, Zhou Hao could see the bustling scenery outside. As an internationally renowned city, Jakarta was much more prosperous and modern than Siang City. However, in his previous life, this prosperous city was also a place that the people of China hated, because Jakarta was the main source of the incident in Indonesia. Most of the pedestrians on the street were Asian with yellow skin and black eyes. There were only a few European people with blue eyes and green hair. And among those Asian people, it was already hard to tell which were Han and Indonesian. Zhou Hao sighed in his heart. The Han people who had taken root here had treated this place as their home and had contributed a lot to the development and construction of this place. However, the natives here had always regarded them as a thorn in their flesh. They thought that the Han people had seized their job opportunity and seized their economy. Leaning against the back of his chair, Zhou Hao sighed. In this life, the Tanhua incident could not be avoided. This was because the Suharto family and the military and political system had caused problems for Indonesia that were difficult to resolve. Whenever there was a serious social problem in Indonesia, Indonesian people would habitually point the blame at the local Chinese. This was not only caused by Suharto's Tanhua policy over the past few decades, but also determined by Indonesia's deep-rooted feelings. What Zhou Hao could do was try his best to minimize the damage to the Indonesian people. At the same time, he could ensure that this would be the last anti-Hua incident in Indonesia. When the people from the First Army saw Zhou Hao's solemn expression, they could more or less guess what Zhou Hao was thinking. He said, "We have been here for a while. We don't know what happened in the past, but from our point of view, the Indonesian people here dislike the Indonesian people, especially after the financial storm broke out. As the capital of Indonesia, Jakarta has already been attacked and robbed by many Indonesian shops." Zhou Hao said with a solemn expression, "Our shelter must be prepared. When the incident really happens, we must provide a safe place for the people here. Also, when the time comes, those thugs will definitely not be unarmed civilians. We must be prepared. Mr. Zhou, don't worry. With President Pang's help, we have already transferred enough firearms. When the time comes, we will definitely be able to resist those thugs." Not long after, they arrived at a commercial building and took the elevator to the top floor. In the elevator, someone from the First Army introduced the building to Zhou Hao. This building belongs to President Pang's Golden Court Group. There is an employee dormitory upstairs. Fourth boss and the people from the First Army live here. This is also the temporary command center of our people in Jakarta. Zhou Hao nodded. He thought that the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce had spared no effort to help the people sent by the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce. Apart from the elevator, Zhou Hao came to the meeting room on this floor and saw Fourth Boss and Li Shuihan from the First Army. Li Shuihan was still dressed in a shirt and pants. She was still wearing a long black windbreaker and looked very valiant. The black ponytail that hung down to her waist also swayed, bringing with it a slight fragrance. Just like when they met before, Li Shuihan's extremely beautiful and classical face was always wearing a cold and indifferent expression. It was as if she was 1,000 miles away from people. Li Shuihan was sitting on the main seat of the meeting table. There were more than 10 men and women sitting on both sides. They should be the people from the First Army and the special forces that were sent over. There were also 2 middle-aged men in suits and shoes. They did not look as tough as Li Shuihan and the others. Instead, they looked like merchants. They must be from the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce. Li Shuihan, who was sitting in the big chair, curled her lips when she saw Zhou Hao. She said indifferently, "You're here?" Zhou Hao was used to Li Shuihan's cold attitude. He did not have the habit of sticking his hot face to Li Shuihan's cold butt, so he only nodded slightly. The others looked at Zhou Hao curiously. They did not know why this handsome young man would appear here. One should know that because of the importance and confidentiality of the plan, the existence of this temporary command center could not be leaked. This is the person sent by the higher-ups to assist us. He is the special consultant of our First Army. Li Shuihan introduced Zhou Hao to everyone. In order to ensure safety, we did not inform everyone beforehand. Zhou Hao also nodded to everyone and smiled. "My name is Zhou Hao. Please advise me." Everyone stood up and greeted Zhou Hao. Zhou Hao also learned that these were the commanders of the First Army and the Special Forces. And the 2 merchants were just as Zhou Hao had expected. They were the directors of the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce, called Xiao Zhongming and Wei Haisheng. They both had strong financial abilities. Before Zhou Hao arrived, Li Shuihan and the others had just held a report meeting that only happened once every 3 days. The commanders of each division had reported the situation to them in order to make adjustments in time. Since Zhou Hao was here to assist them, he naturally needed to have an understanding of the situation here. So Li Shuihan also agreed to let him participate in this meeting. According to Zhou Hao's special consultant status and the rank of Major General like Li Shuihan, his position should be beside Li Shuihan. But when the officer on Li Shuihan's right side wanted to stand up and give the position to Zhou Hao, Li Shuihan glared at him, forcing the officer to stop moving and not dare to stand up. Li Shuihan pointed to the seat at the end of the meeting table and said to Zhou Hao, "There is always a first-come, first-serve. Since you joined halfway, just sit there." When everyone heard Li Shuihan's words, the expressions on their faces were a little strange. People in China paid the most attention to the issue of status. Whether it was a work meeting or a red and white banquet, they had to sit according to seniority or position. This was especially obvious in the official circles. Just like now, Li Shuihan was the First Army's fourth boss and a real major general. Among everyone present, the one with the highest position was her. Therefore, she sat at the head of the meeting and presided over it. Although Zhou Hao's rank as a major general was only a false title, his status was on the same level as Li Shuihan. It would not be appropriate to let him sit at the back of the table. Everyone present had quick thinking and immediately guessed it. Li Shuihan and Zhou Hao did not see eye to eye. They did not dare to ask Li Shuihan about it. They only looked at Zhou Hao, wanting to see what kind of reaction he would have. Zhou Hao nodded at Li Shuihan with a calm expression, then walked straight to the last seat and sat down. He knew that he had come here to do proper business, and there was no need for him to bicker with Li Shuihan about important things that had nothing to do with her. This action of his made other people admire him. Li Shuihan ignored Zhou Hao and said, Indonesia's financial situation is deteriorating, and the mood of the Indonesian people in other places is getting worse and worse. Everyone needs to be prepared, and at the same time, pay attention to confidentiality. If Indonesian authorities, especially the Indonesian military, find out about our existence, it will not only be us who will suffer. The local Indonesian people may also become the targets of their anger. So I request that your subordinates do not leave their bases without the permission of their superiors. Otherwise, they will be punished by military law. Zhou Hao looked at Li Shuihan, who had a cold face, and saw that all the commanders just nodded and did not dare to make a sound. He thought that this woman's power was really not to be underestimated. No wonder she could become fourth boss of the First Army. He heard Li Shuihan say again. Also, according to our observation, the internal structure of Suharto's government has become unstable. Some members of the Congress are dissatisfied with Suharto. Furthermore, the governors of each province have different reactions. Now, the political situation in Indonesia has become turbulent, especially the general commander of the Indonesian Armed Forces, Wiranto, and the general commander of the Army's Strategic Reserve Forces, Prabowo. We found that these two have been secretly mobilizing their trusted troops recently. I think that these two fellows will definitely make a big move soon. We must pay close attention to them. Although he did not get along well with Li Shuihan, Zhou Hao still listened to her very seriously. A soldier with dark skin beside him also quietly handed him a document. Zhou Hao opened the document and saw that it recorded the situation of First Army and the Special Forces in Indonesia. He smiled kindly at the soldier. From this document, Zhou Hao learned some basic information. In order to carry out the plan against Indonesia, the central government sent 1,300 members of First Army over. There were also close to 10,000 special forces selected from the Army and the Navy. They hid in the important cities of Jakarta, Wanlong, Siswi, and the other Indonesian capitals. The people hidden next to the Indonesian parliament and the provincial governors were the top secret agents of First Army and the Ministry of National Security. In addition to the Indonesian government and the military, we also need to pay attention to a religious organization called the Shiva religion. Li Shuihan's cold voice sounded again, and her expression was also very cold. Zhou Hao also frowned, because he had never heard of this religious organization called the Shiva. This Shiva also did not appear in any reports from his previous life. Li Shuihan said, this religion believes in one of the three great gods of India, the god of destruction, Shiva. There are believers everywhere in Indonesia. According to our estimates, there are at least 100,000 believers in this religion. Most of them are indigenous Indonesian people, and there are also a small number of foreigners. The only one who can't join the religion is the Chinese. One of the commanders looked at Li Shuihan. Fourth boss, are you saying that this Shiva cult has the tendency to excel? Li Shuihan nodded her head. Earlier I sent people to investigate this Shiva cult and discovered that they appear to be a religious organization on the surface, but they are secretly manipulating many gangs. More than half of the gangs in Jakarta are controlled by them. The gangs under them are engaged in all kinds of activities such as drug trafficking, gambling, prostitution, and so on. Moreover, many of them are targeted at the Chinamen. In all parts of Indonesia, every year, more than 1,000 Chinese are kidnapped by the gangs controlled by the Shiva, and many of them tear up hostages when they receive ransom money. The nature of this is very bad. According to Fourth Boss, this Shiva has a lot of influence in Indonesia. It's impossible that the Indonesian government doesn't know about their existence. Another commander said. Li Shuihan sneered. I suspect that the Shiva cult was built and controlled by the Indonesian military. Its purpose was to use the Shiva cult to attack the Chinese. The teachings of the Shiva religion claim that the blood of the demons flowed in the Indonesian people's bodies. If one wanted to live a peaceful life, they had to eliminate the demons first. In addition, most of the believers in the Shiva religion were poor Indonesian indigenous people. Under the propaganda of Suharto's government, They believed that their poverty was caused by the fact that the Indonesian people controlled more than half of Indonesia's economy. Therefore, these believers of the Shiva church hate the Indonesian people very much. Hearing Li Shuihan's introduction of the Shiva, Zhou Hao's expression became serious. After decades of exclusion from the government of Suharto, the Indonesian natives had a bad relationship with the people of China. Now that a religion that hated the Indonesian people had appeared, if this continued, the Indonesian people would only become more and more ostracized by the Indonesian indigenous people. Furthermore, Zhou Hao was well aware of the power of religion. In order to launch a holy war against the United States, the Middle East Islam did not hesitate to use them as human bombs. They even hijacked planes to crash into the World Trade Building. The crazy belief in religion would make those loyal believers think that dying for religion was the ultimate glory. This kind of crazy believer, not to mention unarmed civilians, even the army would feel a headache. Just as Li Shuihan said, the Indonesian government could not possibly not know about the Shiva religion with 100,000 believers, but they still tacitly approved of it. Therefore, Zhou Hao also suspected that this Shiva was created by Suharto to deal with the Chinamen. Zhou Hao lightly knocked on the table and said to Li Shuihan, "For the safety of the local Chinamen, we cannot allow the Shiva to continue developing. I think we should join our original plan to eradicate the Shiva cult. You don't need to remind me about this. I have already sent people to investigate them," Li Shuihan said coldly. Then, her assistant turned off the light in the conference room and turned on the projector on the conference table. Everyone saw many photos on the projector screen. Li Shuihan pointed to the fat middle-aged man in the first photo and said, "This is the leader of the Shiva sect. His name is Nan Non, a native of Indonesia. He was originally a worker in a canned fish factory in Siswi. After being fired by the factory, he became an unemployed wanderer. In 1989, he founded the Nan Non sect, which was also the predecessor of the Shiva sect. He now lived in Jakarta, and every Sunday, he would hold a church to let his believers participate. He also sells the Shiva's divine water to his believers, claiming that it is a holy water that can cure all diseases with his divine power." Zhou Hao sneered in his heart. What Nan Non did was a common practice among cults. The cult master sold the so-called holy water to his followers to earn a huge profit, but in fact, those were just ordinary tap water. Every time Nan Non goes out, he will have more than 10 bodyguards protecting him. Ordinary people can't even get close to him. Even his car is specially custom-made bulletproof cars. This fraud is very nervous about his own safety, Li Shuihan said. At this time, the image on the screen suddenly changed. A woman in her 30s appeared. Li Shuihan said, "This woman is called Canary. She is the president of the Yagata branch of the Shiva cult. At the same time, she is also Nanan's mistress. She helped Nan Non manage the finances of the Shiva cult. We have investigated. The money controlled by the Shiva is over 2 billion USD. Most of it is managed by this woman. She is Nanan's true confidant." The image changed again. On the projection screen, Canarini turned into a white man with a rough face. Li Shuihan's voice sounded again. "This person is called Tracy Francis, the head of the security department of the Shiva cult, and also the captain of Nanan's guards. He was the one who gave orders to the gangs controlled by the Shiva cult. This man was a member of the British SAS Secret Service. After he retired, he migrated to Indonesia and became the best fighter under Nan Non." He heard Tracy. Francis was a retired soldier of the British SAS Secret Service. Zhou Hao was also shocked. He knew that the British SAS Secret Service was one of the most famous special forces in the world. Even the world-famous Delta Special Forces were established according to the SAS model. In the first few years, they were even consulted by the experts of the SAS. Nan Non could not be underestimated to have someone like Francis, who had been on the battlefield for a long time, as the captain of the guards. However, while Zhou Hao was shocked, he noticed that the faces of the commanders of First Army and the Special Forces were very calm. Li Shuihan looked coldly at Zhou Hao and snorted. "Why are you so surprised? It's just a SARS. It's not like I haven't fought with them before." "You've fought against SAN before?" Zhou Hao asked. "What's so strange about that? Our First Army's mission range covers the entire world. Naturally, it's hard to avoid fighting with the troops of various countries. After completing the mission in Yugoslavia, they used the SARS to chase after us. We even sent them back, and we safely retreated. And the United States CCT, Air Special Forces, also couldn't do anything to us. It's not just us, the First Army. Even their special forces have experience fighting with the special forces of other countries." Li Shuihan's expression was clear and cold, but there was a deep sense of pride between her brows. Zhou Hao also sighed in his heart when he heard this. Although China's special forces were not as famous as the Green Beret, Alpha, and SEAL special forces, they were still very strong. Just like the First Army, very few people knew of its existence, but it was able to fight against the 4 major intelligence departments of the world without losing out. Then, she introduced the other main members of the Shiva sect to everyone present. Finally, she said, we have basically found out about the main members of the Shiva cult, but the real relationship between them and the Indonesian government, as well as how to contact the Indonesian government, are still under investigation. She looked down at Zhou Hao, who was at the back of the conference table. Consultant Zhou, do you have any other opinions to express? Although she asked Zhou Hao if he had any opinions, Zhou Hao saw Li Shuihan's expression. She was clearly saying, even if you have opinions, we don't need to listen to you. Li Shuihan asking for her opinion was just a formality. Zhou Hao knew that he had not completely understood the situation here, so it was not suitable for him to express any opinions. He did not want to argue with Li Shuihan, so he shook his head and said, I have no objections, then the meeting will be adjourned. Li Shuihan straightened her chest and gave a military salute. Everyone immediately stood up and saluted before leaving one after another. Consultant Zhou, you stay here. I have something to discuss with you. Li Shuihan sat back on her chair and said. Zhou Hao did not move. He just looked at Li Shuihan. He knew Li Shuihan wanted to talk to him about Wahid. Sure enough, after everyone left, only Li Shuihan and her assistant, who was also a member of the First Army, were left. Li Shuihan said, Wahid was assassinated 3 times in a month. You already know about it, right? Yes. They told me about it on the plane. Li Shuihan nodded to the assistant beside her. The assistant took a document and handed it to Zhou Hao. Li Shuihan said, This is the dungeon of the secret agreement Wahid signed with us. Zhou Hao looked at the contract in detail and saw that after Wahid became the president of Indonesia, he needed to maintain cooperation with China, including ensuring that China's representative companies had priority mining rights for Indonesian mining resources. Zhou Hao was very clear that this agreement was a binding spell on Wahid. If Wahid wanted to destroy the bridge after becoming the president of Indonesia, this agreement would be his fatal weapon. Wahid knew this as well, but with his current lack of wealth and power, being able to get China's support zone to compete for the position of president was like a pie falling from the sky. Therefore, he wouldn't reject it at all. Although President Pang has already passed the evidence of Suharto's family's corruption to us, Wahid has yet to announce these things, and he hasn't shown any ambition to fight for the position of president. Suharto shouldn't have noticed him. Zhou Hao's eyes focused and said, You mean someone leaked the information to Suharto? It's obvious. Li Shuihan's expression was cold. Apart from the First Army itself, only President Pang knows how important Wahid is to us. Wait, you don't doubt President Pang, right? Zhou Hao said. We can't rule out this possibility. Compared to our First Army, President Pang is more suspicious. Impossible. President Pang is the clearest about how important this plan is. Why would he do that? Li Shuihan coldly snorted. So you mean that there is a traitor in our First Army? Zhou Hao shook his head and waved his hand. That's not what I meant. Indeed, with the nature of the First Army, the probability of a traitor, or even a traitor appearing, was far lower than that of outsiders. Furthermore, Li Shuihan was 4th boss of the First Army. Naturally, she would not allow others to slander the First Army. Li Shuihan held her hands and snorted at Zhou Hao's explanation. I have already sent people to investigate President Pang secretly. I also hope that he is not the traitor who leaked the information. Also, whether he is the traitor or not, in the future, you better be careful when you meet him. Don't give yourself away. I know the severity of the matter, all right. I want to see Wahid. It should be fine. Li Shuihan thought for a moment and agreed. After all, Zhou Hao was a consultant sent by her superiors, and the first person who supported Wahid to become the president of Indonesia was also Zhou Hao himself. Thus, Zhou Hao and Li Shuihan left the Golden Court Corporation's building together and headed towards Wahid's residence. Due to the successive assassinations, Wahid lived in an independent manner on the outskirts of Jakarta, under the strict protection of the First Army. On the way, Zhou Hao learned from Li Shuihan that the assassins had poisoned Wahid, ambushed him, and caused traffic accidents, but were all destroyed by the First Army. After entering the manor, Zhou Hao saw that there were a lot of sentries in the manor. The security was very tight. When Zhou Hao saw Wahid, he was sitting on a rattan chair under a grape rack and reading the newspaper. He looked very relaxed. He did not want to see the person who had just been assassinated 3 times. In his previous life, Zhou Hao had seen Wahid on the news. At that time, he had already resigned. Furthermore, his physical condition was also very bad. He could only rely on his wheelchair to travel. And now, Wahid was far younger than he was at that time, and his body was also much better. Seeing Li Shuihan and Zhou Hao come, Wahid folded the newspaper, stood up, and said to the two of them with a smile, "General Li, you are here. This must be Zhou Hao, Mr. Zhou. I didn't expect him to be so young. I didn't believe it when I heard about you from President Pang." After saying that, Wahid warmly held Zhou Hao's hand. "Hello, Mr. Wahid. I have admired you for a long time." Zhou Hao smiled. Looking at Wahid's kind and friendly expression, Zhou Hao knew that he was actually a firm and even stubborn person. When he was the president of Indonesia, due to the ambitious reorganization of the cabinet, the three strongest political parties in Indonesia were pushed to the opposite side. The parliament even voted to dismiss him. But he still held the position of Indonesian chancellor until the end of his term of office. He fought against most of the political forces in Indonesia alone. Although this was supported by Indonesian Chamber of Commerce, it was also inseparable from his own ability. Moreover, Wahid was the largest Muslim organization in Indonesia, the president of the Union of Islam Teachers. He had a very high position in Indonesia and even in the world of the Muslims. In addition, because Wahid abolished part of Indonesia's anti-Hua policy during his term of office, he was called the savior of Indonesia. Although he might have done this to repay the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce or to trade with them, his contribution to Indonesia was still difficult to erase. Wahid invited Zhou Hao and Li Shuihan into the house and asked the servants to bring them hot tea. In fact, Wahid's family also had many businesses and properties in Indonesia. It could be said that they did not have to worry about their lives. This independent manor was Wahid's own property. After sitting down, Zhou Hao asked with concern, "Mr. Wahid, I heard General Li say that you were assassinated 3 times this month. Are you all right?" "Thanks to General Li and the others' protection, I was able to escape death time and time again," Wahid said with a smile. "Then Mr. Wahid, do you know who wants to take your life?" Wahid drank a mouthful of hot tea. "If I am not wrong, it should be Suharto and the others." Zhou Hao frowned and asked, "Did they know that you have the evidence of corruption?" Wahid leaned back and smiled. In fact, the corruption of Suharto's family is no longer a secret in the government or among the people. It is just that no one dares to overthrow Suharto's dictatorship. However, even without this matter, Suharto and I did not see eye to eye, because I have criticized his dictatorship many times in public. He once wanted to chase me away from the position of chairman of the Union of Islam Teachers. But because our union's believers firmly opposed it, he didn't succeed. Suharto controlled the power of the army, and with the Congress being his people, he was indeed the king of Indonesia for dozens of years. However, he is old now, and the financial storm has come again. Because of Suharto's helplessness, not only the people in the society, but also the people in Congress are dissatisfied with him. Zhou Hao sneered and said, "Besides, the people in the military are also eyeing his throne, especially his good son-in-law, Prabowo." Wahid also smiled and said, "Mr. Zhou, you are right. Suharto is getting old. Everyone knows that he will not be the president for many years. Therefore, Prabowo and the other powerful and ambitious people have been eyeing him. Plus, the financial storm this time has caused the economic chaos in Indonesia." Zhou Hao followed Wahid's words and said, "This chaos is our chance. If it was not for this financial storm, it would be very difficult for us to take back the position of president. It is because of the economic chaos in Indonesia and Prabowo and Verdo, who each have their own ulterior motives, that we can take advantage of the chaos." After listening to Zhou Hao's words, Wahid looked at him with admiration. If it was an old politician with this kind of eyesight, Wahid wouldn't be surprised. He just had to say these words. It was a young man who wasn't even 20 years old. "Mr. Zhou, I have a few pieces of porcelain from the Ming and Qing dynasties in my study. Are you interested in taking a look?" Wahid asked Zhou Hao with a smile. Zhou Hao knew that Wahid wanted to talk to him alone. Therefore, even though he had no interest in porcelain, he still nodded with a smile. "Really? Then I must take a look." "This way, please." Wahid stood up and made a gesture to Zhou Hao. He also stood up and followed Wahid to the second floor. Li Shuihan also wanted to stand up and follow them upstairs, but she saw Zhou Hao deliberately glanced at her when he passed by her. That gaze clearly did not welcome Li Shuihan to follow him. Humph! Li Shuihan still sat back in the end and did not follow Zhou Hao and the rest. When they arrived at Wahid's study, Zhou Hao saw that the wooden shelves were decorated with all kinds of exquisite porcelain. However, neither Wahid nor Zhou Hao had any interest in talking about porcelain. Wahid bowed deeply to Zhou Hao and said sincerely, "Mr. Zhou, please accept my sincere gratitude. Thank you very much." Zhou was slightly shocked. He quickly went over to help Wahid up. Mr. Wahid, why do you say that? Mr. Pang Jinting and Mr. Pang have already told me that 40% of the funds prepared for my presidential election was provided by you. Mr. Zhou, I am very grateful for your generosity. Wahid said. In many countries, when it came to running for president, other than personal strength, financial support was also very important. Just like in the United States, without the support of those wealthy and powerful consortiums, there is no hope of running for president. In this plan to support Wahid to become the leader, Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Zhou had prepared sufficient funds. The Indonesian Chamber of Commerce had offered 60%, and Zhou had given 40%. Of course, as the saying goes, one cannot rise early without benefits. Zhou supported Wahid not only because he wanted to improve Indonesian social status, but also because he wanted to get a share of the Indonesian economy. Wahid was well aware of this. The relationship between them was only a business deal. Mr. Zhou, you must think that I am grateful to you because you funded me, Wahid said with a smile. Zhou thought, isn't it? In addition to the money, that Mr. Han Mei also told me that the first person who proposed to support my election was you, Mr. Zhou. It was also because of this that China sent so many elites to protect me. Otherwise, how could I have escaped those 3 dangerous assassinations? That's why, Mr. Zhou, you are my benefactor. Indeed, if not for Zhou's suggestion, the China side might not have chosen Wahid as their partner. Even the politicians that Pang Jinting and the others had roped in were also famous. Wahid wasn't the only one. When Zhou heard Wahid's words, he felt very puzzled. He wondered why Big Boss would tell Wahid about this matter. Apart from making Wahid feel grateful to him, there seemed to be nothing else that he could do. Could it be that Big Boss is purely trying to help me? Zhou thought to himself. Shaking his head, Zhou threw away these distracting thoughts and said to Wahid, Mr. Wahid, I see that your physical condition is not good. Your diabetes and kidney failure should be very serious. Zhou remembered that Wahid had 100 illnesses. When he was the president, he often needed to wash his kidneys. In the end, he also passed away due to illness. When Wahid heard this, his eyes lit up, and he said excitedly, Mr. Han Mei is right. Mr. Zhou, you can really cure my illness. Did Mr. Han Mei tell you that I can cure you? Zhou was surprised again. Yes, Mr. Han Mei is a martial arts master. He could tell that my illness is very serious, but he said that he had no way to cure me. He wanted to cure me. Only you, Mr. Zhou, can do it. It was not strange that Big Boss could know Wahid's condition, because Wahid had his own personal doctor. Big Boss could totally understand Wahid's health through the doctor. Furthermore, Big Boss was supreme expert, who had an unfathomable cultivation base in the inner circle. He was able to understand Wahid's condition through his own personal doctor. He could judge a person's safety by observing their qi. What made Zhou curious was that even though modern Western medicine could not cure Wahid's kidney failure, it was still strange for an expert like Zhou and Big Boss. He could use his own powerful genuine aura to treat Wahid. Even if it could not completely cure Wahid, it could also greatly alleviate his condition and prolong his life by at least 20 years. Besides the profound genuine auras, the Shin-Nong's herbal classics also had a prescription that targeted pancreas and kidneys, and it had a profound effect on Wahid's diabetes and kidney failure. Although this would require a large amount of genuine auras and energy, Wahid was very important to the center. If there was a need, Big Boss would not be stingy with his genuine auras to treat Wahid's illness. But now, Big Boss told Wahid that only Zhou could cure his illness. This puzzled Zhou. Zhou naturally wouldn't expose Big Boss, because he wanted to cure Wahid's body and give him more initiative in the business deal. Mr. Wahid, you should know your condition. Your diabetes and kidney failure are not good, and there is a big problem with your eyesight. The doctor can only let you get some relief, but your condition will get worse and worse. Wahid's face was gloomy. Yes, I went to Switzerland to seek treatment last year. Those doctors said that to cure my kidney failure, I can only exchange my kidney. However, the kidney source is not a problem. The key is that I have been sick for a long time. Coupled with my old age, my body can no longer withstand surgery. Moreover, even if I change my kidney, there is a risk of infection and rejection. The doctor has already told me that if I'm optimistic, I can still live for another 10 or 8 years. Those doctors were right. In the history of his previous life, Wahid had indeed died of illness in 2009. Zhou lowered his head and thought for a while, then said, Mr. Wahid, I can cure your illness. Although I can't guarantee that I can cure you completely, I can at least let you live for another 20 years. It's already very good. Wahid was very happy when he heard that Zhou could really cure his illness. All right, I will take a look at your condition first. After saying that, Zhou Hao grabbed Wahid's right wrist and injected a wisp of genuine aura into his body, which then flowed through his meridians. In terms of medical skills, Zhou Hao was only at a half-baked level. He could not catch up with Xiao Nanyue and Dr. Gongsun, but because he practiced inner force, he knew a lot about the human body's internal organs and 8 extraordinary meridians. Through that thread of genuine aura, Zhou Hao found that Wahid's pancreas and kidneys meridians were blocked, and his pancreas were weak and his kidneys were lacking. Therefore, he slowly poured more Wahids into Wahid's body, helping him dredge the blocked meridians. Wahid only felt a warm flow flowing through his body, making him feel as warm and comfortable as lying under the afternoon sun. When Zhou Hao stopped pouring genuine auras into his body, Wahid felt that his originally weak body was now full of energy. This feeling of being strong was something he had not felt for many years. He immediately said to Zhou Hao gratefully, "Mr. Zhou, thank you. I really feel much better now. So it turns out that you are really like what Mr. Han Mei said. You are the unfathomable Qigong great master." "I don't deserve it." Zhou Hao smiled and said, "I only eased your condition. Next, I need to use medicine to help you recover your pancreas and kidneys." "Great. Thank you, Mr. Zhou, thank you." Wahid, who had been disappointed many times, sincerely thanked Zhou Hao. "Mr. Zhou, I will not say anything else. If there is anything I can use in the future, as long as I can do it, I will not refuse." Zhou Hao smiled, thinking that it would be fine as long as you said those words. Next, besides talking about his condition with Wahid, Zhou Hao also talked about Wahid's plan to compete for the president of Indonesia. Zhou Hao said, although Indonesia's economy is deteriorating rapidly due to the second financial storm, it is not the time yet. When Indonesia's economy falls to the bottom, the public's dissatisfaction with Suharto's government will reach the highest point. You will then publicize the evidence of Suharto family's corruption of public funds and the invasion of the country's resources. You must hit the nail on the head and drag Suharto down. Wahid said worriedly. After pulling Suharto down, Viranto and Prabowo will definitely seize the opportunity to fight for the position of president. They control most of the military forces in the country, especially in Jakarta. In order to suppress their competitors, they will even send people to assassinate them. Don't worry. When the time comes, we'll pin them down and create opportunities for you. Zhou Hao said, "One more thing. Even if I take over the position of president, but this financial storm has caused too much damage to the country's economy, and the International Monetary Fund has just rejected Suharto's request for help. What Suharto and the others left me is a mess that is difficult to clean up." Zhou Hao patted Wahid's shoulder. The International Monetary Fund was originally controlled by British and American countries. This Asian financial storm was also caused by Soros and Julian. Do you think the International Monetary Fund will provide financial aid to Indonesia? Zhou Hao smiled. But this is a chance for you and us. If you can save Indonesia from this economic crisis, then your position will be unshakable. Moreover, our China and President Pang will provide you with help. You won't fight alone. In fact, Zhou Hao, Pang Jinting, and the others also wanted to exchange the Indonesian economy after the storm in exchange for an increase in Indonesian status. After overthrowing Suharto's government, Indonesian people had to obtain political and even military power. Only then could they truly protect Indonesian people. After 2 hours of detailed discussion, Zhou Hao and Wahid came down from the second floor with smiles on their faces. Only Li Shuihan, who was still sitting in the hall on the first floor, had a face full of impatience. Wahid said, "Mr. Zhou, generally, it is already evening. Stay here for dinner." He heard Li Shuihan snorting lightly. "No need. I still like to go to Old River Restaurant." After saying that, she went out of the room. Old River Hotel? Zhou Hao was puzzled. Wahid smiled and said, "That is a small restaurant in the city. It is owned by a Chinaman. The most famous one is Sand River Powder." Sand River Powder? Zhou Hao immediately said, "Is there Sand River Powder here too?" Sand River Powder was an authentic delicacy in Guangzhou. Zhou Hao liked it very much. In the past, there was a restaurant in Xiang City that specialized in selling Sand River Powder. Later, it closed down. Now that he heard that there was also Sand River Powder here, Zhou Hao wanted to give it a try. Anyway, they had already chatted with Wahid. Now, the two of them did not need to increase their friendship through dinner. Therefore, Zhou Hao said goodbye to Wahid and quickly went out to chase after Li Shuihan. Stopping Li Shuihan's car, Zhou Hao quickly went to the back seat. Li Shuihan, who was beside him, looked at him coldly. "Didn't you want to have dinner with Wahid? Why did you follow me out?" "Hee, I haven't eaten Sand River Powder in a long time. I heard that the Sand River Powder at Old River Restaurant is very famous, so I wanted to try it. Li Shuihan said, you can go if you want to, but don't expect me to treat you. We will pay separately. Tisk, so petty. Zhou Hao muttered to himself. The Old River Hotel was located in the downtown area of Jakarta. It was not a big store, but its business was booming. The tables in and out of the store were full of customers. The aroma of food and the voices of the customers made the place very lively. Other than the Old River Hotel, the other stores on the street were mostly owned by people from China. Sister. The moment Li Shuihan got off the car, a petite figure rushed out of the shop and threw herself into Li Shuihan's arms. It was a little girl of 8 or 9 years old. This little girl was younger than Yun Er, and her appearance was also far from being comparable to Yun Er. However, she was also lively, innocent, and very cute. When Li Shuihan saw this little girl, a rare smile actually appeared on her face. She touched the little girl's head and said, "Ding, ding, ding." Seeing the smile on Li Shuihan's face, Zhou Hao was stunned for a moment. His heart beat very quickly. He thought that this woman looked really good when she smiled. She was much more beautiful than her usual cold face. Sensing Zhou Hao's gaze, Li Shuihan's smile faded, and she lightly snorted. The little girl called Ding Ding also saw Zhou Hao. Because she was afraid of strangers, she timidly hid behind Li Shuihan and looked at Zhou Hao with sparkling eyes. At this time, an ordinary-looking middle-aged man also came out. He was wearing an apron covered with flour and rice milk. The man smiled at Li Shuihan and said, "Yes, Miss Li, you are here? I have left a table for you inside. Please come in." Li Shuihan nodded and led Ding 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 in. She did not care about Zhou Hao there anymore. Zhou Hao saw that Li Shuihan did not lead the way and went in. He was very angry in his heart. Fortunately, the middle-aged man saw that Zhou Hao got out of the car with Li Shuihan and smiled at him. "Sir, you are Miss Li's friend, right? Please come in." Walking in, Zhou Hao did not care whether Li Shuihan agreed or not and sat opposite of her. Li Shuihan did not care about him and only smiled and chatted with the lively Ding Ding Ding. The man just now walked over again and said to Li Shuihan and the others, "Miss Li is still the same as usual. Fried tofu with sand river powder, right? Where is this gentleman?" Zhou Hao estimated that the man and the woman just now should be the boss of the Old River restaurant. He smiled and said, "I heard that the Sand River fans here are very famous. Let me have a taste of the authentic Sand River fans." At this time, the man walked over again and patted Zhou Hao's chest and said, "Sir, don't worry. All 3 generations of our old Jiang family make Sand River fans. I guarantee it's the local flavor of Sand River Town." Then, he turned to the woman beside him and said, "Hurry up and give Miss Li and this Sir 2 Sand River powder. Miss Li, remember to add more chili pepper to your fried tofu." "Okay." The woman responded and went into the kitchen behind them. "Sir, judging from your accent, you are also from Guangdong, right?" "Me too. My family was from Guangzhou Sand River Town. When I was 10 years old, I followed my father to Indonesia. Everyone calls me Old Jiang. That was my wife just now." Old Jiang sat beside Zhou Hao and said warmly. Zhou Hao pointed to Ding 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 and smiled at Old Jiang. "This is your daughter, right? Hee, she looks really cute. She's just a little naughty." Old Jiang's face was filled with a kind smile. Looking around, Zhou Hao said, "Old Jiang, many of your guests are Indonesian natives." "That's right. Here, no matter if it's the people from China or the natives, they like to eat our Sand River powder." Old Jiang said proudly. "The natives here are still good to the natives, right?" Old Jiang's expression darkened, and he cautiously looked around. He saw that the natives' guests weren't paying attention to this place. He also knew that they didn't understand Mandarin. Then, he whispered to Zhou Hao, "We've lived here for dozens of years, and we've gotten along pretty well with our neighbors. However, there's one person who doesn't like us. Besides, the government's policy is very against us. Our ID doesn't allow us to use Chinese names, and it especially states that we're Chinese. The school doesn't allow us to teach our children Chinese, and we secretly teach them the landing language." Ding Ding Ding, who was beside Li Shuihan, also said, "Last time, there was a guy who ate and ate in our restaurant, but the police came and did not care. They even said that we wronged him and wanted us to apologize to that guy. It was clearly selfish." Old Jiang immediately glared at Ding Ding. "Kid, don't talk nonsense." Ding Ding, who was scolded by his father, immediately pouted and held Li Shuihan's hand. He did not dare to speak anymore. Zhou Hao frowned and said to Old Jiang, "Old Jiang, the Huangs are third-class citizens here. Didn't you consider going to other places? Or go back to China?" "Sai, I grew up here, and I was born here. We have already taken root here, so how can we just leave like that? Besides, it's not that easy to return to China." Old Jiang sighed and said to Zhou Hao, "Sir, you should be here on vacation or on a business trip. Then you must be careful. Recently, due to the economic crisis, the natives have been rejecting the people of China even more. We have lived here for dozens of years. It's still all right, but if you accidentally provoke those people, you'll be in danger." Zhou Hao nodded his head. "Yes, we know. Thank you for reminding us. Oh right, Old Jiang. Do you know there is a refuge nearby?" Old Jiang looked at Li Shuihan and nodded. "Yes, Miss Li has already told us. If anything happens, you can go there and ensure your safety," Zhou Hao said. The lady boss had already brought a tray over and brought Zhou Hao and Li Shuihan's sand river powder to them. The sand river powder of the Old River restaurant was indeed very authentic. It tasted even better than the one in Xiang City. Zhou Hao ate it with relish. Right at this moment, Zhou Hao and the others heard a loud noise coming from outside, which attracted the people in the restaurant to look outside. Zhou Hao also stretched his neck and looked outside. He saw a few men surrounding a young man, punching and kicking. They were very ruthless, and they kept cursing. It was the Indonesian language that Zhou Hao could not understand. The young man who had been knocked down by them could only curl up and protect his head, shouting something in Indonesian. "What's going on? What did they say?" Zhou Hao said. Before Old Jiang could say anything, Li Shuihan said, "That group of people said that the young man was a robber, and that young man said that they were the robbers. He just wanted to call the police after seeing the process of the robbery." Zhou Hao could tell that they were the robbers just by looking at how fierce those men were. Yet, they acted like they were trying to catch the thief. At the same time, Zhou Hao saw Old Jiang opening his mouth and wanting to say something, so he asked, "What's wrong, Old Jiang?" Old Jiang hesitated and asked, "That boy, I know him. He's also a Chinese like us." "What?" Zhou Hao got angry when he heard that. He was about to go out and save that young man, but his hand was held by someone. When he turned around, Zhou Hao saw that the person holding him was none other than Li Shuihan. Zhou Hao shouted in a low voice, "What are you doing? Are you going to watch your compatriots being bullied and do nothing?" Li Shuihan's face was still as cold as before, and she said indifferently, "If you make a big deal out of it, not only will you expose yourself, you will also implicate us. If it affects our plan, can you bear it?" "You." Old Jiang also said to Zhou Hao, "Sir, it's better to bear with it. Those people were taught by Shiva." "Shiva taught them?" Zhou Hao was very surprised. "Look at their collars. There is a badge on each of their collars. On the badge is the picture of Shiva God." Old Jiang said. When Zhou Hao heard this, he looked at their collars. Sure enough, he saw a round white badge on their collars. On top of the badge was a ferocious statue that was neither male nor female. They must be Shiva, one of the three great gods of India. Deng Deng Deng, who was hiding behind Li Shuihan, said in fear, "Those people are very fierce. They often beat people up and asked us for money every month. They said it was for the safety of the environment." Zhou Hao looked around and indeed saw that there were quite a number of people here and outside. However, not a single one of them dared to stand up for the young man who was beaten black and blue. No one even dared to call the police. Zhou Hao sighed and felt helpless. This situation was not only limited to Indonesia, but also within the country. Very few people would dare to come out and uphold justice. Furthermore, local people like Old Jiang and the others had families with them. If they provoked Shiva, they would not have a good ending. Zhou Hao naturally could not ask them to let go of their worries and become heroes. He just wanted Zhou Hao to stand idly by and do nothing. No matter what, he wouldn't agree to it. He raised his right palm and condensed the genuine aura into his palm. Then, he gently waved it, and an invisible blade energy shot out from his palm. It went past the heads of the crowd and flew towards the group of Shiva sect disciples who refused to stop. Everyone's attention was focused on the outside. None of them had noticed Zhou Hao. Even Old Jiang was baffled when he saw Zhou Hao's action. Only Li Shuihan knew that Zhou Hao had attacked those people outside. Zhou Hao's blade accurately hit the Shiva disciple in front of him. With a light touch on his neck, the Shiva disciple's carotid artery was cut open, causing blood to spurt out. The person who was hit only felt a chill on his neck, but did not take it to heart at all. He continued to beat up the young man. The surrounding people saw that the man's neck suddenly split open, and he spat out a large amount of blood. They were immediately frightened and cried out in alarm. The other Shiva followers also noticed the man's strange behavior and hurriedly cried out. The man was still not aware of it. Just as he felt strange about the actions of his companions, he suddenly felt a wave of powerlessness. His vision quickly blurred, and then he softly fell down. The dark red blood continued to surge out of his neck. No one knew why the man's neck suddenly split open, and those Shiva believers saw that their companions had lost more and more blood and were on the verge of dying. They couldn't care less about the young man covered in wounds. They hurriedly lifted the man up and shouted as they walked towards the hospital. After the Shiva disciples left, the surrounding people dared to look at the young man's injuries. When they found out that he had fainted, they quickly sent him to the hospital. Li Shuihan only turned around at this time when she saw that Zhou Hao had already sat back down and continued to eat his sand river powder with relish, as if nothing had happened. Li Shuihan also sat down and said, "You are really ruthless. That person's wound is too deep. Plus, his carotid artery has been cut off. It is useless to send him to the hospital." Zhou Hao rolled his eyes. He thought, "You also have the right to say that I was ruthless. Why didn't you think about ordering your subordinates to castrate others?" When old Jiang heard Li Shuihan's words and recalled Zhou Hao's strange actions just now, he immediately guessed that the Shiva disciple outside had been injured by Zhou Hao. He was surprised by Zhou Hao's incredible ability, but he was smart enough to not say anything. At this time, Zhou Hao said, "No matter if it is the people from China or Indonesia, none of them dared to provoke those people from the Shiva sect. I think the Shiva sect is really reckless in this place." "Who says so?" Old Jiang also said angrily. "Apart from good things, those guys did everything. They raped, robbed, killed, and set fire. They did all kinds of evil things, and they often target us, the Han people. They are the ones who open all the gambling dens nearby. The prostitutes and drug dealers are also under their control. The police don't care about them, and they even cover up for them." Li Shuihan then said to Zhou Hao, "Did you notice just now that those guys who did violence are more agile than ordinary people? They should be trained people, either in the army or in the police force. Anyway, they are not ordinary people." Hearing Li Shuihan's words, Zhou Hao remembered that in his previous life, he had read about the 98th year of the exorcism incident. It said that many of those thugs were trained people. If that was the case, would those thugs be related to Shiva's teachings? After leaving the Old River Hotel, Zhou Hao and Li Shuihan returned to the building where Golden Court Corporation was located. As the driver of the building was a member of First Army who had strong anti-tracking abilities, Zhou Hao and the others didn't have to worry about their whereabouts being exposed. After returning to the temporary command center, Li Shuihan ordered her subordinates to investigate Shiva. They arranged an independent room for Zhou Hao. It was well decorated and equipped. There were also specialized personnel responsible for delivering meals and washing clothes. It made people live very comfortably, and the night view of Jakarta could be seen on the balcony outside. Zhou Hao's only regret was that he could not bring Yin Qingqing or Wang Shijuan along, which made him feel a little lonely now. Someone knocked on the door suddenly. Zhou Hao went over to open the door and saw Li Shuihan appear outside the door. Beside her was an old man who was not very tall, about 60 years old, with a stack of goatee on his chin. "Please come in." Zhou Hao moved aside and welcomed Li Shuihan and the old man in. After entering Zhou Hao's room, Li Shuihan said to him, "This is Zhu Shou, Mr. Jing Zhu. He is the third head of First Army." "Oh, hee, so it is the third head. I have been looking forward to meeting you for a long time." Zhou Hao hurriedly cupped his fists and smiled at Zhu Shoujing. Zhu Shoujing also smiled and said, "I have heard a lot about you, Brother Zhou. Our big boss has told me more than once that you have extraordinary talent and unfathomable skills. You even managed to beat away the Tyrone Wind Demon. I admire you for that." Li Shuihan curled her lips when she heard the praise from Zhu Shoujing. She looked unconvinced. She said to Zhou Hao, "The third master is in charge of protecting Wahid's safety. It was all thanks to the third master that Wahid was able to escape the previous 3 assassinations." "So that's how it is." Ancestor Shou Jing stroked his beard and smiled. "Actually, I saw you at Wahid's house just now. It's just that I need to protect Wahid in secret, so I can't show myself." After the conversation, Zhou Hao found that this person who served as the third leader of the First Army was quite easy to get along with. Of course, this was only relative to their own side. If it was their enemy, the ancestor would be as cold as Li Shuihan and 7 kills. From Zhu Shoujing's words, Zhou Hao also knew that this old man's teacher was from Shaolin Temple and cultivated a profound inner force skill like the Golden Bell Shield. He had several decades of inner force, and when he circulated his qi, he would not be able to gain any strength. However, Zhou Hao knew that this kind of tyrannical outer force martial arts also had weaknesses. It was the so-called bound door. Once one was discovered and struck by the enemy, one's martial arts would be crippled, and one's life would be lost on the spot. However, different people had different places for the barrier on their bodies. When the Golden Bell Shield is cultivated to the highest level, there will no longer be a barrier on their entire body. They will be in an undefeatable position. Zhu Shoujing stroked his beard and smiled. Unfortunately, my talent is lacking, and even after several decades of hard work, I still can't touch that level. When they talked about Shaolin Temple's martial arts, Zhou Hao talked about Zhang Daniyu because his divine ox striking fist was passed down by an old monk. When ancestors Shou Jing heard that Zhang Daniyu knew about the profound martial arts of beating bull across the mountain, he said in surprise, "Beat a cow across a mountain? Could it be the supreme martial art of Shaolin, the 13 Tycoons?" Zhou Hao was also very surprised when he heard this. He then heard ancestor Shou Jing say, "It's the same as the golden bell cover that I cultivate. The 13 Tycoons cultivate the same technique that can make the sun rise. However, it's both internal and external. After cultivating it, its power will be much stronger than the golden bell shield." People often thought that Shaolin Temple's ultimate technique was the body metamorpho scripture. Actually, the 13 Tycoons cultivating is the true profound cultivation technique that can allow cultivators to cleanse the marrow and change the scriptures. So it turns out that Danyo's martial arts has such a great background. Zhou Hao muttered to himself. Ancestor Shou Jing said, "I heard from Brother Zhou that the person who passed the cultivation technique to Zhang Daniyu should be Zen Master Akala of Shaolin Temple. In the past 100 years, only Zen Master Akala has been able to cultivate the 13 Tycoons to such a level." After chatting for a while, Zhu Shoujing bade farewell and left. Zhou Hao sent him to the door but saw that Li Shuihan was still leaning against the balcony with no intention of leaving. Zhu Shoujing also gave Li Shuihan a strange look but did not say anything. "I say, big sister Li, what else do you have to tell me? It's already so late. It is not good to be alone in a room, right?" Zhou Hao said to Li Shuihan. Although Li Shuihan was a rare beauty, Zhou Hao did not want to face her cold face. He did not want to embarrass himself. Li Shuihan narrowed her eyes at Zhou Hao and slowly said, "Who taught you martial arts? You are not even 20 years old, yet you are able to fight evenly with Big Boss and Takitsubu Fengma? What does it have to do with you who taught me my martial arts? Don't tell me it's because I'm younger than you and my martial arts is higher than yours? You're not convinced, are you?" Zhou Hao chuckled. Li Shuihan's expression changed slightly, then she said coldly, "That's right. I'm not convinced. So what? Why is Big Boss praising you so much? Why does he value you so much?" Zhou Hao could see the intense jealousy and dissatisfaction in Li Shuihan's eyes. Zhou Hao thought, could it be that this is the reason why she dislikes me? Looking at the deep hatred in Li Shuihan's eyes towards him, Zhou Hao thought that it didn't make sense. Just because Big Boss praised me a few times, she hated me so much? Could it be? He looked at Li Shuihan in shock. Hey, big sister Li, are you talking to Big Boss?" Li Shuihan immediately guessed what Zhou Hao wanted to say. Both sides of her cheeks immediately turned red, but she was even more angry. She scolded Zhou Hao. "You? What nonsense are you talking about? Why would I treat Big Boss? You dirty and shameless person. If you're not, then so be it. Why are you so angry?" Although Li Shuihan strongly denied it, Zhou Hao saw her reaction was so intense. He could tell that Li Shuihan's feelings towards the Big Boss was definitely not as simple as her subordinates and superiors. Thinking of this, Zhou Hao's heart unconsciously felt sour. Although Big Boss, Han Mei, was not considered handsome, the mature charm on his body was very strong, especially his extraordinary demeanor of being an expert of his generation. Even Zhou Hao himself couldn't help admiring him, let alone Li Shuihan. Furthermore, Zhou Hao also had a somewhat disappointed thought. Even without the existence of the great manager, this classical beauty and cold personality of Li Shuihan would not have a good impression of him. Forget it. Shijuan and cousin are still waiting for me to return. There is no need to be sentimental about this woman who kills without blinking her eyes. Zhou Hao thought so and said to Li Shuihan, who was still angry, "Big sister Li, I am tired and want to rest early. You should go back first." Li Shuihan closed her eyes and took a few deep breaths. She gradually calmed down and said, "Zhou Hao, if you dare to insult Big Boss and me again, be careful that I will not let you go." Humph. Zhou Hao had repeatedly tolerated her, but Li Shuihan still had this kind of attitude. No matter how good Zhou Hao's self-restraint was, he could not help being angry. He sneered and said, "How can you not let me off? It's not that I am looking down on you. Just with your strength, 10 more will be added. You are not my match." "You." Li Shuihan was at a loss for words, but she knew what Zhou Hao said was the truth. In terms of martial arts, she could not catch up with Zhou Hao even if she flattered him. But she calmed down after a while. The corners of her mouth curled up, and her eyes were cold. "I can't beat you. But what about the women around you? All of them combined are no match for me. and your mother is just an ordinary woman who does not even have the strength to truss a chicken. I don't need to touch them. As long as I give a few orders, they will be investigated by the National Security Bureau every few days. Also, Situ Jinying's father is not clean either. As long as I am willing, I can let him stay in jail for the rest of his life. After listening to Li Shuihan's words, Zhou Hao knew that many of his situations had already been investigated thoroughly by the First Army. Facing Li Shuihan's insidious threat, Zhou Hao turned around and did not look at her. His voice was also very calm. Li Shuihan, I hope this is only because of your anger. Or, if you really have such thoughts, quickly give up. Otherwise what? Li Shuihan did not show weakness at all. Then I promise that even if Big Boss is here, he will not be able to protect you. I hope you do not treat my words as a joke. Li Shuihan looked deeply at Zhou Hao, who had his back to her, as if she was trying to determine how serious Zhou Hao's warning was. After a long time, she snorted, a bluff. Then she turned around and left Zhou Hao's room. Zhou Hao patted his forehead and said to himself, what a headache. Next, Zhou Hao contacted Song Jiahao and the others to understand the financial market situation in Indonesia. With the 50 billion renminbi provided by the central government, Zhou Hao's operation team was very active in Indonesia's financial market. With the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce also participating in this operation, Indonesia's financial market would collapse much faster than Zhou Hao's previous life. He believed that by the middle of March, it would reach the critical point that Zhou Hao had predicted. At that time, Wahid would announce the evidence of Suharto's family's crime, and it would be the most effective. Zhou Hao only ended his conversation with Song Jiahao and the others until late into the night. Although it was only February, Indonesia already felt hot. Zhou Hao had heard from the waiter that there was an outdoor swimming pool on the rooftop of the building, so Zhou Hao took a pair of beach pants and went straight to the rooftop of the top floor. Since it was already past 1 o'clock in the morning, there shouldn't be anyone on the top floor. Zhou Hao changed into his beach pants in the elevator and walked towards the outdoor swimming pool. However, to Zhou Hao's surprise, there were people here. Under the bright moonlight, a slim and slender figure was swimming in the swimming pool, creating waves of blue waves, like a mermaid. The moon and stars were sparse in the night sky, and the hazy moonlight that was like a veil sprinkled down, reflected in the clear water of the pool, like thousands of silver flowers blooming at the same time. A slender and beautiful figure shuttled through the waves of light. Her swimming posture was gentle and charming, just like the legendary mermaid. The beauty underwater was wearing a white swimsuit, her long hair gently moving along with the flow of the water. But because she was facing the bottom of the lake, Zhou Hao could only see her back, but not her face. Who is this? She came here to swim in the middle of the night. Zhou Hao thought to himself. At this moment, he saw that the beauty had changed her swimming pose and turned around. With the help of the moonlight and the clear pool water, Zhou Hao finally saw her face clearly. This beauty was the one who had parted ways with Zhou Hao just now, Li Shuihan. When Li Shuihan turned over, she also saw Zhou Hao standing by the pool. She was similarly shocked. Her cold face was full of shock, and she even accidentally choked on 2 mouthfuls of water. After that, her shock instantly turned into fury. She suddenly pushed out both of her palms under the water. The strong force immediately set off waves in the pool. Several sharp water arrows also shot towards Zhou Hao, who was by the side of the pool. Originally, after she and Zhou Hao parted on bad terms, she was depressed and planned to swim in the pool on the rooftop to relieve her boredom. In order to not let others see her swimsuit image, Li Shuihan deliberately waited until 1 a.m. in the morning before coming over. She did not expect to meet Zhou Hao again, which made Li Shuihan very angry. These few water arrows naturally could not pose any threat to Zhou Hao. Zhou Hao casually raised his hand and knocked down all the water arrows. Li Shuihan took advantage of this time to jump out of the pool. Her body was still covered in sparkling water droplets, as beautiful as a hibiscus that came out of the water. Zhou Hao did not have the time to appreciate Li Shuihan's beauty, because after Li Shuihan jumped out of the pool, she threw herself straight at Zhou Hao. She even scolded him with a cold face. Pervert, accept your death. When they heard the sound, they saw Li Shuihan had already arrived in front of Zhou Hao. She waved out a palm shadow and rushed towards Zhou Hao like a tide. Li Shuihan could be considered as a first-rate expert. Her strength was roughly comparable to the guard beside Nanami Kaoru, Jinguki Ishiro, who was known as one of the 3 great experts in Japan. She was also slightly inferior to the former ghost subordinate of Feng Imotaro. If it was anyone else, they would really not be a match for Li Shuihan. Furthermore, she had attacked with anger and did not hold back at all. However, Li Shuihan was facing Zhou Hao now. Zhou Hao only raised his left hand and calmly unleashed all of Li Shuihan's fierce attacks. Furthermore, he also discovered that Li Shuihan's moves were very similar to the big boss's plum-searching snow sword. He guessed that Li Shuihan's martial arts was similar. Perhaps it was Big Boss who taught her. Facing Li Shuihan's furious attacks, Zhou Hao only defended and did not attack. However, Zhou Hao did not have the slightest intention of harming Li Shuihan. Li Shuihan, on the other hand, attacked with deadly attacks, focusing on Zhou Hao's vital parts. Zhou Hao was also angry. He seized the opportunity to grab Li Shuihan's hands and lightly shouted at her. "Enough! What are you going crazy for?" Li Shuihan's hands were restricted and could not move, but she still did not give up. She lifted her right leg and kicked towards Zhou Hao's crotch. Her intention was very vicious. She was a first-rate expert, and she had used all her strength in this kick. If she was hit by it, she was afraid that she wouldn't even be able to block Zhu Shoujing's golden bell shield. However, she saw Zhou Hao's two legs. Together, he caught Li Shuihan's legs, making it difficult for her to move an inch. Zhou Hao took a cold breath, thinking that this woman was too insidious. If she picked him up, even if he wasn't injured, he would still be in pain half to death. He said angrily to Li Shuihan, who was gnashing her teeth in anger, "Have you gone crazy enough, crazy woman? Did I offend you? Let go of me, you perverted thief," Li Shuihan shouted. At the same time, she kept struggling, but she could not break free from Zhou Hao's grip. Because of Li Shuihan's fierce struggle, the pair of beautiful women in front of her chest also started to move. It was very eye-catching. Only at this time did Zhou Hao pay attention to Li Shuihan's rare swimsuit. What she was wearing was what she was wearing. It was a hair-white swimsuit. The big and deep V collar made her breasts look very alluring and even revealed a deep ravine. It was also at this time that Zhou Hao realized that Li Shuihan's upper circle was very impressive. It was almost as big as Zhao Yuqin's. Furthermore, her lower body was also thin waist and fat buttocks. Between her legs was a plump spot that was like a peach, especially Li Shuihan's legs. Among the women Zhou Hao had seen before, she was also outstanding. Even Zhao Yuqin, who had the best figure beside Zhou Hao, could not compare to Li Shuihan's legs. Li Shuihan was 1.7 or 1.8 meters tall and was only slightly shorter than Zhou Hao. Zhou Hao estimated that her legs were 1.2 meters long, which was more than those international models. Furthermore, Li Shuihan's thighs were as smooth as fat, white and tender like peeled eggs. At the same time, as a martial artist, Li Shuihan's legs did not have any protruding muscles. Instead, her curves were gentle. Looking at the pair of shaking breasts on Li Shuihan's chest and the seductive thighs below, Zhou Hao could not help but have a reaction. The loose beach pants also bulged out a small tint. Li Shuihan, who had a pair of narrow eyes, immediately noticed the abnormality in Zhou Hao's lower body. She became even more furious and kept shouting, "Let go of me, you despicable person. All right, I just saw you wearing a swimsuit. It's not like there's anything wrong with you. Is there a need to be like this? Who would have thought that you would come here in the middle of the night to swim? You still want to say it." Li Shuihan's cheeks flushed red. It was unknown whether it was out of embarrassment or anger, but she said fiercely, "You shameless lecher. I swear I will never let you off. I will arrest all of your women and put them in jail. I will seal your mother's company. I will make all of your family and friends restless. F***CKU. Zhou Hao hated people threatening him with their family and friends the most. He said angrily, "Since you said I was a pervert, then I'll show you." After saying that, Zhou Hao grabbed Li Shuihan's shoulder belt of the swimsuit and pulled it to both sides, tearing her swimsuit apart. "Zhou Hao, don't. Let me go. I will settle the score with you. I will not disturb your family and friends. Please let me go. I won't pursue today's matter anymore." Zhou Hao did not believe that Li Shuihan would really forgive him. Since it had already come to this, Zhou Hao had nothing to worry about. He raised his head and smiled at Li Shuihan. Li Shuihan originally thought that Zhou Hao would agree to her request. She thought that after escaping this calamity, she would definitely not let go of Zhou Hao's family and friends. However, she heard Zhou Hao say, "I don't dare to believe your words. Anyway, you will definitely seek revenge on me in the future. Why don't you take advantage of me first tonight?" After saying that, his hand reached between Li Shuihan's legs. He grabbed the swimsuit fabric at her crotch and pulled with force, instantly tearing the fabric there. After Zhou Hao came down from Li Shuihan's body, he opened her acupuncture points. After Li Shuihan recovered her ability to move, she immediately knelt beside the pool and kept using her fingers to pinch her throat, wanting to spit out those filthy things. Looking at Li Shuihan, who was naked, Zhou Hao, who had withdrawn his desire, began to feel regret and guilt. But since the matter had already happened, Zhou Hao did not plan to escape. Furthermore, Li Shuihan was not Li Ruolin. Zhou Hao's guilt was not as strong as when he forcefully seized Li Ruolin's chastity. After retching for a long time without any effect, Li Shuihan finally slumped to the side of the pool. Her face was overflowing with tears, and she could not suppress it. Don't be so sad. It was you who said that as long as I don't break your body, you can do anything. Besides, that thing of mine is a precious supplement for women. It's very good for women. Zhou Hao did not lie. Perhaps it was because of the amber fruit. Zhao Yuqin, Situ Jianying, Yang Jiabao, and the other girls who had eaten his supplement had all received great benefits. Even Yang Jiabao's pain from eating the supplement had solved it. However, when Li Shuihan heard Zhou Hao's words, it was a typical example of him taking advantage of the situation and pretending to be good. She turned around and said fiercely. She glared at Zhou Hao and gritted her teeth. It was as if she wanted to tear Zhou Hao apart in order to vent her hatred. At this time, Zhou Hao also obediently did not speak anymore. He did not want to provoke this side anymore. This tigress had a bad temper to begin with. Although Zhou Hao did not destroy Li Shuihan's virgin body, Zhou Hao's actions just now was also a great humiliation to Li Shuihan that was difficult to wash away. Li Shuihan did not dare to make trouble for Zhou Hao. Firstly, she could not defeat Zhou Hao, and secondly, she was afraid that if she angered Zhou Hao again, he would be trampled on again. Li Shuihan's chest rose and fell due to her anger, making Zhou Hao swallow his saliva again. Li Shuihan was shocked. She hurriedly raised her hand to cover the spring light on her chest, afraid that Zhou Hao would once again become a beast and humiliate her. The expression in her eyes changed. After that, she gritted her teeth and said to Zhou Hao, "Get lost, I don't want to see you. Also, today, if you dare to tell anyone else, I will die together with you. That, after I leave, you won't take things too seriously, right?" Zhou Hao said hesitantly. Li Shuihan sneered. "Don't worry, I am not that kind of person." Zhou Hao thought that it was true. Li Shuihan should not be that kind of weak person. With her personality, she should be more inclined to do whatever she could to take revenge on Zhou Hao. If it was Zhou Hao, he said, "Let me tell you. In the future, if you have anything, just come at me. If you dare to touch the people around me, then don't blame me for being ruthless." After saying that, Zhou Hao turned around and left the rooftop. At the same time, he blamed himself in his heart. "I was too impulsive just now." It was true that men were animals with lower bodies. Sigh. If this girl told Big Boss about this, he wouldn't know how to face her in the future. But with this girl's character, she shouldn't tell anyone else. Zhou Hao didn't know how Li Shuihan got back to her room in the end, but when he saw her in the meeting room the next day, she still had that cold expression on her face, so no one could tell what was wrong with her. However, whenever she looked at Zhou Hao could still clearly feel the intense hatred she had towards him. Fourth boss. According to the insider's report, the sect leader of the Shiva, Nan Nan, will come to the Wenhua Eastern Hotel for lunch this afternoon. We want to send someone to follow him. One of the men from the First Army said to Li Shuihan. Li Shuihan waved her hand. "All right, I will go there myself." "Fourth boss, you will go personally?" that person said in surprise. Li Shuihan snorted. "What can I?" No. Her subordinate hurriedly shook his head. He was very respectful towards Li Shuihan. Looking at Li Shuihan's imposing manner in front of her subordinate and recalling the scene of her being ravaged by her last night, her mouth could not help but reveal a smile. Seeing Zhou Hao's smile, Li Shuihan glared at him and said, "You come with me." The Eastern Wenhua Hotel is a 5-star hotel in downtown Jakarta, where many rich and high-ranking officials like to come. As the leader of the Shiva sect, Nan Nan was a regular customer here. He visited the hotel 2 or 3 times a week. He did not like private rooms, but preferred to stay in the lobby. After learning that Nan Nan had come to the Eastern Wenhua Hotel for dinner, Zhou Hao and Li Shuihan both rushed over and saw Nan Nan. Just like the information from the First Army, every time Nan Nan went out, he would be accompanied by 7 or 8 guards. Currently, in the lobby of the hotel, Nan Nan was sitting at the same table as his 2 guards, while the other guards were sitting at the other table. They were constantly on guard against the surrounding situation, in order to prevent anyone from harming Nan Nan. It was similar to what he saw in the photo earlier. Nan Nan was a fat middle-aged man with a fat head, ears, and a belly full of intestines. He had a face of hypocrisy on his face, which reminded Zhou Hao of the Dalai Lama who cheated the world. Zhou Hao and Li Shuihan were in the hall now, while the other members of the First Army were hiding in the hall, pretending to be ordinary guests. Looking at Nan Nan, who was far away, Zhou Hao said to Li Shuihan, "You plan to do this? Follow him." Li Shuihan did not say a word. Just as Zhou Hao was about to ask again, Li Shuihan suddenly hugged Zhou Hao's arm and said in a sweet voice, "Darling, quickly find a seat and sit down. I am tired." When he suddenly saw Li Shuihan talking to him in such a tone, even though she looked like a delicate beauty at the moment, Zhou Hao still could not help having goosebumps all over his body. Because Zhou Hao was familiar with Li Shuihan's temperament, he felt that her current appearance was too out of tune with the real her. "Don't be in a daze. Quickly cooperate with me." Li Shuihan's eyes revealed a touch of coldness. Only then did Zhou Hao realize that Li Shuihan wanted to pretend to be a couple with him to avoid arousing the suspicion of others. Therefore, Zhou Hao deliberately pointed to an empty table at Nanan's side and smiled at Li Shuihan. "All right, there's a seat over there. Let's go over." The two of them snuggled against each other and walked over there. Although they were just putting on an act with Li Shuihan, their arms were tightly pressed against her ample bosom, which still made Zhou Hao feel intoxicated. When they passed by Nanan's table, Li Shuihan revealed a surprised expression and exclaimed, "Huh, isn't this Mr. Nanan?" What Zhou Hao did not expect was that Li Shuihan actually spoke in Indonesian. But now, in front of Nanan, Zhou Hao couldn't speak, lest he expose his identity as a Chinaman. Because the Shiva religion was a religion that did not belong to China, Nanan, who was having his meal, suddenly heard a pleasant voice. He looked up and was stunned. He felt that he was a celestial being. He thought that he had never seen such a beautiful woman in his life. It was only when Li Shuihan called him for the third time did Nanan come back to his senses. He quickly calmed his expression. He said with a kind expression, "Miss, I am Nanan. Do you have any advice for me?" Li Shuihan looked very excited. "Is it really Mr. Nanan?" She did not expect to see Mr. Nanan here. "Mr. Nanan, I am a loyal believer of you. I watch every time you talk on TV. You are a believer of our religion?" Nanan was puzzled. He thought that it was impossible that he didn't know about such a beautiful female believer. Li Shuihan's face darkened. "Actually, for some reason, I have not officially joined your Shiva religion, Mr. Nanan, but I really admire you. I always hope to listen to your teachings, Mr. Nanan." Nanan felt his bones lighten when he heard Li Shuihan worship him so much. He also wondered why this beauty didn't join Shiva. To join the Shiva church, one only needed to pay a certain amount of tuition fee. Because if one wanted to attract more believers, the threshold of the Shiva sect's enrollment was very low. Looking at Li Shuihan's beautiful face again, Nanan could not help but think that most of the women in Indonesia had dark skin, and there were very few women as white and beautiful as Li Shuihan. Thinking of this, Nanan thought of it in his heart. This woman is from China. There were only people from China. No matter how much money they paid to join the religion, they were not allowed to become a believer of the Shiva religion. However, Nanan did not say this out loud because many people knew the principle that the Shiva religion did not accept people from China. If he told the truth that Li Shuihan was from China in public, it would not be good to accept Li Shuihan as a disciple. Nanan did not want to let go of such a delicate beauty. He smiled and said, "It's rare that this young lady admires my teachings so much, and my teachings have always abided by the principle of saving the world and awakening the world. How about this? I'll personally pass on my teachings and philosophy to you." Li Shuihan was very excited when she heard that. She could not help but grab Nanan's hand and say, "Mr. Nanan, is what you said true? I am not dreaming, am I? This is great. I can get Mr. Nanan's personal teachings." At this moment, Nanan's gaze finally fell on Zhou Hao's face. Seeing that the beauty who worshipped him was quite close to him, he narrowed his eyes and asked Li Shuihan, "This sir is?" "Oh, he is my boyfriend," Li Shuihan said as if nothing had happened. When Nanan heard this, his heart was burning with jealousy. He thought to himself, "Has this beauty already been taken care of by this be asterisk starred?" Nanan rolled his eyes and smiled kindly. "It just so happens that I have time now. Why don't I talk to you about the teachings of our Shiva? If it's appropriate, I will personally allow you to join my teachings." "That's great. However, I want to talk to you alone. As for your boyfriend, if he also wants to join my school, he needs to observe first. After all, my school wants to save those with resolution. Those who have already become unteachable, I don't want to waste my time teaching them." Li Shuihan hurriedly said, It should be. Nanan was pleased in his heart, but he still smiled and said, "I happen to have a lounge upstairs. Let's go up there and discuss the Tao now." Zhou Hao just stood beside Li Shuihan, but he did not understand a single word she said to Nanan. At the end, Li Shuihan turned around and smiled at him. "My dear, I want to ask Mr. Nanan for advice. You can go back first." She knew that Li Shuihan definitely wanted to lure Nanon into the trap, but she also guessed that Nanon, the cult leader, also did not have good intentions towards Li Shuihan. Therefore, Zhou Hao also had a strange feeling. But he did not want to ruin Li Shuihan's plan, so he could only nod and agree. He pretended to nod respectfully to Nanon and then walked away alone. Seeing that Zhou Hao, the eyesore, had left, the joy on Nanon's face intensified. He impatiently said to Li Shuihan, "Then let's go up now. Let me see if you are really suitable to join my teachings. If your comprehension is good, I can let you be the holy maiden of my teachings and receive the worship of tens of thousands of people." Thus, Nanon brought Li Shuihan out of the hall and directly took the elevator to the guest room upstairs. Nanon's bodyguards were still by his side, and they could guess Nanon's intentions. He often used the excuse of preaching to deceive the female believers of the Shiva to sacrifice themselves to him, and even deceive the female believers to bring their underage daughters to him for sexual abuse. Now that he met Li Shuihan, a beauty who believed in the Shiva and was also beautiful, Nanon naturally would not let go of her. When he came to the front door of the luxurious suite on the upper floor of the Eastern Wenhua Hotel, Nanon said to his bodyguards, "You guys wait outside. Don't let anyone in. Also, don't tell that female wolf, Kanaridii, about this." After instructing the bodyguards, Nanon led Li Shuihan into the room and locked the door. This suite was spacious and luxuriously decorated. It was worthy of the quality of a five-star hotel. The moment Nanon entered the room, the face of the savior that had saved the world was hard to maintain. It revealed his greedy and lecherous face. He said to Li Shuihan, "The spirit and ideology that I have taught you are too broad and profound. If you rely on words alone, I am afraid you will not be able to accept it. But you don't have to be afraid. I have a method to make the believers deeply understand the spirit and ideology of my sect. From there, they will gain enlightenment and attain the realm of perfection." Li Shuihan smiled and said, "Mr. Nanon, what method is that?" "Haha, it is to get the mind of the professor by conforming with the body of the professor." Nanon looked at Li Shuihan like a wolf and smiled. "That is to say, if our bodies become one, you will be able to feel my mind. That is to say, if our bodies become one, you will be able to feel my mind. Come, you want to achieve perfection, right? Come, I will fulfill your wish." Seeing Nanon finally reveal his wolf tail, Li Shuihan's smile did not change. "Nanon, you use this kind of nonsense to trick those female believers to give you obscene insults, right? Truly shameless." Nanon noticed the sudden change in Li Shuihan's tone and also felt that something was not right. Subconsciously, he wanted to call the bodyguards outside. But before he could open his mouth, Li Shuihan attacked with her left hand and instantly sealed Nanon's acupuncture points, making him unable to move his mouth and not speak. Then, under Nanon's surprised gaze, Li Shuihan took out a rope and tied him up tightly. Then, she easily lifted Nanon, who weighed nearly 200 kilograms, to the balcony of the room. Without thinking, Li Shuihan threw Nanon out and grabbed the rope tied to Nanon's head. This was the height of more than 20 floors. Nanon, who was thrown outside, was so scared that he almost peed his pants. However, he could not shout because his acupuncture points were sealed. He did not fall down. The rope on his body tightened. Because of inertia, he swayed to the balcony of the suite on the lower floor. The people of First Army had been waiting for him there for a long time. In a European-style villa downtown Jakarta, armed soldiers patrolled the spacious courtyard from time to time. There were also several sentry towers equipped with 6-barrel Gatling HMGs. Many people knew that this villa was the residence of the General Commander of the Indonesian Army's Reserve Strategic Forces, Prabowo. The study that took up more than 100 square meters of land was filled with specimens of lions, tigers, wolves, bears, and other wild beasts. There was even a shrunken true human specimen that was made by cannibals on the desk. In the middle of the study, a middle-aged man sat on the rattan chair with his eyes closed. He swayed back and forth slightly, looking very satisfied. This man was slightly short, but his skin was very dark and sturdy. His facial features were also very rough. Although he seemed to be sleeping at this moment, he gave people a sense of danger, like a poisonous wolf hiding in the darkness and waiting for an opportunity to devour others. This man was the son-in-law of the current president of Indonesia, Suharto. He was also the general commander of the Indonesian Army's Reserve Strategic Forces, Prabowo. Other than Prabowo, in the study room, there were two other people, respectively. A woman who was about 30 years old and a tall British man. These two people were Nanon's mistress, Kanarini, and Francis, the head of the security department of Shiva. They were standing opposite of Prabowo. They didn't dare to move or speak. Francis, who had retired from the British SAS assault team, was better off. Kanorti looked uneasy. He was afraid that Prabowo would suddenly jump up and eat him. Nan, that fat pig. Haven't you found it yet? Prabowo's eyes were still closed. His voice was very hoarse and unpleasant to hear. Canarini trembled. He said anxiously, General, we haven't found him yet. Trash. How old is Jakarta? It's been so long and you still haven't found it? Francis said, General, it is indeed difficult. Our men rushed over after Nanan's guards lost contact with us for 2 hours. When they arrived at the Eastern Wenhua Hotel, Nanan was already gone. The guards responsible for protecting him were all buried in his room. Furthermore, the footage of the closed road television in the corridor of the hotel was covered with paint. Thus, they couldn't see what had happened at that time. After a pause, he continued, after finding out that Nanan was missing, we immediately sent people to look for him. However, since we don't know who kidnapped him, and we have to avoid the spies that Viranto arranged in Jakarta, I'm afraid it will be very difficult to find Nanan in a short period of time. Prabowo did not speak, and there was no joy or anger on his face. Canarini said, General, could it be that Viranto sent someone to take Nanan away? The guards around Nanan are all elites that you have chosen from the army. It is very difficult for ordinary people to kill them. If Viranto knows that Nanan is a general's man, I'm afraid it will be very unfavorable for you to compete for the position of president, Francis also said. Prabowo finally opened his eyes and saw the bloodthirstiness in his eyes. He said lightly, find him as soon as possible. After you find him, kill him and blame it on Viranto. Canarini and Francis were shocked. They knew that Prabowo wanted to silence them. If Viranto wanted to use Nanan to attack Prabowo, as long as Nanan was killed, there would be no witnesses. And he blamed it on Viranto. The 100,000 believers of the Shiva would definitely not let Viranto go. But Nanan is the leader of the Shiva. Without him, I'm afraid it would be very difficult to control those followers. Canarini said worriedly. Prabowo sneered, if I can create one Nanan, then I can create another. The ones who are in charge of Shiva are the two of you. As long as the two of you are fine, it will be fine. Francis said, General, according to the news, Suharto will be returning to the country next month. It's useless for him to return to the country. Because of him, the people in Congress have suffered heavy losses in the stock market. They have accepted my opinion. After Suharto returns, they will immediately impeach him and force him to step down. Also, more than half of the officials in the various provinces in the country support me. Suharto is old, so it's time for him to step down and give up his position. If he is tactful, then I can let him live his old life in peace. Otherwise, humph. Prabowo said, as for Viranto, I will make him hand over his military authority when the time comes. He looked at Francis. You have to train those people from Shiva. Also, brainwash them and make them believe that it was the Chinese who took their money and made them poor. Canary said, General, you need money to win over the members of the Congress and the provincial governors. I'm afraid the Shiva will not be able to take out that much money. Now that so many banks in the country have closed down and those foreign investors are not willing to lend us money, what should we do? Prabowo sneered. That's why I asked you to keep an eye on those people from the Chinaman Chamber of Commerce. Those people are so wealthy that they control more than 50% of our country's private economy. When the time comes, let our people kill them during the chaos. This way, we can use the government's name to openly take over their company and property. Pang Jinting, that old thing, is still helping Suharto with the money laundering. If it works well, I will be able to snatch Suharto's money. At that time, won't I have money? Remember this. Kill those people who are related to those people by blood. Don't let anyone inherit their property and mess up my plan. Got it? Francis and Canary replied at the same time. Canary saw a smile on Prabowo's face and said, General, we found you 10 more girls. They are all virgins between 13 and 16 years old. They are in the room next door. Very good. I can always be at ease when you do things. Prabowo smiled. Francis, come with me. We can enjoy those girls together. It will be fine even if we kill them. Francis smiled lewdly. Thank you, General. On the other side, the people of Shiva were looking for Nanan. He was in the building of the Golden Court Group. Li Shuihan deliberately let someone empty a room. Then she stripped Nanan of his clothes and tied him to a wooden cross. It was similar to how Jesus had suffered in the past. However, Nanan's fat body was too ugly. He was like a male pig tied to a cross. In the room, besides Li Shuihan and Zhou Hao, there was also a man and a woman. They were both members of the First Army. Zhou Hao also recognized that woman. She was the ruthless woman who had cruelly castrated Ninja, who had listened to Li Shuihin's orders the last time. Zhou Hao could more or less guess what kind of fate Nan Nan would have in the future. He could not help but feel some sympathy for the leader of the anti-Hua cult. At this time, Nan Nan could no longer maintain the face of his savior. His face was full of fear. He said to Li Shuihan, who was looking at him coldly, "Are you the kidnappers or not? You just want money, right? Just say it. No matter how much money it is, I will give it to you, as long as you don't hurt me." The male member of the First Army translated every word Nan Nan said to Zhou Hao. He saw Li Shuihan say to the female subordinate, "Cut off one of his fingers first." The female subordinate nodded and took out a knife from her pants. She slowly moved closer to Nanan's right hand. Nan Nan was shocked. "What do you want?" "No, I will tell you everything. Don't hurt me. I will tell you everything." Li Shuihan did not care about his pleas for mercy at all. The female team member also suddenly swung her sword and instantly chopped off Nanan's right index finger. Nanan screamed like a pig being slaughtered. He was in so much pain that his entire body was pulled out. The fat on his chest and stomach trembled. Fortunately, the soundproofing in this room was very good. No one outside could hear Nanan scream. "Stop the bleeding for him," Li Shuihan said to the female subordinate expressionlessly. After the woman stopped Nanan's bleeding, Li Shuihan sat on the chair behind him. She held her hands and said to the pale Nanan, "Okay, now I will ask you something. If you answer wrong or don't know, I will cut off one of your fingers." Nanan took a deep breath, thinking that this woman was too vicious. He couldn't believe that this woman in front of him was the believer who worshipped him. Although he knew that it was someone else who had set him up, he also felt that the difference between Li Shuihan and him was too great. In order to not let his fingers get hurt, Nanan hurriedly agreed to Li Shuihan. He heard Li Shuihan ask him, "You winch teach. Is it related to the Indonesian government? Or rather, the teachings of Shiva?" It was the Indonesian government behind the scenes. Nanan immediately said, "It's not the Indonesian government. It's General Prabowo, the son-in-law of President Suharto." Li Shuihan and Zhou Hao looked at each other when they heard this. Zhou Hao was also very surprised. It seemed that this Shiva sect was indeed the killer who slaughtered the people of China in his previous life. Because after many investigations, that incident with Hua was confirmed to be the mastermind behind Prabowo's plan. Nanan continued, "At that time, I was fired by the factory. In order to make a living, I created a Nanan cult. Then General Prabowo found me and provided me with money and various kinds of help. That was why the Shiva cult was developed. In addition to the regular believers, Prabowo also asked me to recruit those unemployed gangsters, paramilitary prisoners, and soldiers who have broken the military law." Nanan said honestly. Li Shuihan looked at Zhou Hao. Zhou Hao said, "So this sect was created by Prabowo. It seems that he has been coveting Suharto's presidency for many years." Thinking about the May riot in Indonesia in his previous life, Zhou Hao said, "Ask him if Prabowo has given any orders to let the Shiva cult organize an activity against the Chinese." After Zhou Hao asked Nanan, Nanan immediately said, "I don't know about the rest, but Prabowo asked me to send someone to keep an eye on those wealthy people, especially those members of the Chamber of Commerce." Zhou Hao lowered his head and thought for a while, then sneered and said, "Good. This Prabowo really has his eyes on those wealthy merchants." "What does Prabowo want to do?" Li Shuihan asked. Due to the financial storm, Indonesia's economy suffered a huge impact. The International Monetary Fund also rejected Suharto's government's request for help. Therefore, no matter who took over Suharto's position, they would have to face the mess of Indonesia. Indonesia had over 70% of Indonesia's private economy, especially the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce, which controlled 50% of the private economy. Therefore, Prabowo has set his sights on them. Of course, he will not be so great. He only wants to use that money to rebuild Indonesia's economy. He only wants to restore the initial operation of the government. In the end, most of the money will still fall into his hands. Li Shuihan frowned and said, "How could he take the money of the Chinese for himself? Would the Han be willing?" "Of course not." Zhou Hao smiled coldly and said, "But if the owner of a company dies, it will be related to him by blood. All the family members who have the right to inherit the company will also die. Then the government will be able to take over this company and their assets openly." "What a vicious heart," Li Shuihan said. "I think Prabowo wants to kill all the wealthy businessmen and their families during the conflict in Tsinghua. That way, he can control their company and assets. That's why we need to prepare in advance and send someone to protect them, especially the members of the Chamber of Commerce." We can't let them suffer from Prabowo's torture. Li Shuihan agreed with him. She immediately ordered the commanders of the other troops to send people to protect the members of the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce. Next, Li Shuihan asked Nan about the things that the Shiva Church had done to the Indonesian people. According to Nanan's instructions, the gangs controlled by the Shiva Church often robbed the Indonesian people and charged high protection fees to their shops. They even kidnapped the wealthy businessmen or their families from time to time, and after receiving the ransom, they brutally tore up the tickets. They were truly vicious. Seeing Li Shuihan's expression become colder and colder, Nanan hurriedly said, "No, it's not my fault. Those were all ordered by Prabowo, and they were also carried out by Francis. I didn't participate at all." Li Shuihan said, "You did not participate? There are hundreds of Japanese girls missing in Jakarta every year. It has nothing to do with you. I have already found out that those missing Asian girls are the doing of your Shiva." When he suddenly heard Li Shuihan's words, Nanan's expression changed drastically. The fat on his face trembled. Li Shuihan saw that he was still unwilling to confess, so she ordered her female subordinate, "Cut off another finger of his." When the woman moved the knife towards Nanan again, Nanan immediately shouted, "I will speak. I will speak." Li Shuihan nodded to her female subordinate before she retreated. Nanan also honestly said, Those Asian girls were indeed captured by us. But those were all ordered by Prabowo. I was only following orders. Prabowo liked to rape and torture young girls, especially young girls. Many of them were tortured to death by him. He often raped and humiliated those young girls with his confidants or friends. He was the one who ordered me to do this. It has nothing to do with me. After the translator understood Nanan's words, Zhou Hao immediately became furious. He never thought that this beast, Prabowo, would have such a perverted hobby. At this moment, his heart was filled with a deep killing intent towards Prabowo. "You didn't participate in this?" Li Shuihan stared at Nanan. "You dare to say that you did not touch those Asian girls?" With Nanan's greedy and lecherous personality, it was impossible for him not to touch those girls, so Li Shuihan did not believe Nanan's words at all. I. Seeing Li Shuihan personally take the military knife from her female subordinate, Nanan trembled. He immediately confessed, "I will speak. I'll speak. I have raped those girls before, but I only raped them. I didn't kill them, and I didn't torture them either. They were all Prabowo. Li Shuihan put down the military knife, but said to her female subordinate lightly, "Help him dredge it up. Let's see if he knows the consequences of offending these beasts." "I know." Li Shuihan's female subordinate also became furious when she heard Nanan's words. She immediately took a metal box from the side. After opening the metal box, one could see that it was filled with all kinds of knives and instruments neatly. At a glance, it was very similar to the equipment used by doctors for surgery. However, the knives of different sizes and shapes reflected a cold silver light. It made people feel cold just by looking at them. The woman took out a 20-centimeter long tube from the box. One end of the tube was abnormally sharp. The tube looked like it was made of metal, but it was soft. She stood in front of Nanan. She sneered at Nanan. "Do you know what this is?" He. "We all call it catheter. The effect is very good." Nanan was so scared that his head was covered in cold sweat. He shouted with all his strength, "What do you all want to do? I have already answered your questions honestly. Why do you still want to hurt me?" No one paid attention to his shout. No one would sympathize with this beast who had colluded with Prabowo and harmed the people of China. If they were not afraid that Li Shuihan would get angry, the male member of First Army who was with Zhou Hao would have rushed forward and killed Nanan. At this time, the woman also took out a pill from the box, opened Nanan's mouth and stuffed it in. Nanan shouted, "What are you giving me to eat?" "It's Viagra, and after our processing, the dosage and medicinal effect are 2 to 3 times stronger than those on the market." Nanan's expression changed drastically, and the medicinal effects of Viagra were quickly displayed. He. The girl's laughter made Nanan shudder. She smiled as she put on the plastic gloves used for surgery. She squatted down and grabbed Nanan's evil root. Her other hand grabbed the sharp end of the catheter and slowly pierced through Nanan's urethra. No. Nanan could not move at all. He screamed in pain because of the bone-deep pain in his lower body. The intense pain made his evil root tremble. The girl didn't have the slightest pity. She just kept inserting the catheter into Nanan's body. The thick blood kept seeping out of Nanan's urine. And later on, Li Shuihan's words also changed. She muttered to herself, "Let me see if you still dare to humiliate me in the future." Her voice was very soft. and the female subordinates beside her could not hear her. However, Zhou Hao, who had extraordinary hearing, could hear her clearly. He did not mistakenly think that Li Shuihan had been humiliated by Nannan, because the hatred in Li Shuihan's eyes was clearly not directed at Nannan. It seemed like Zhou Hao was the only one who had humiliated Li Shuihan. Thinking of this, Zhou Hao felt a chill down his lower body. After an unknown period of time, Li Shuihan finally stopped after she had vented all the anger in her heart. At this time, Nannan had already fainted from the pain. After taking a few deep breaths, Li Shuihan calmed down and said to the female subordinate beside her, "Stop the bleeding and heal him. Don't let him die. He will still be useful in the future." After that, Li Shuihan walked towards the door. When she passed Zhou Hao, she even coldly glanced at him. Zhou Hao felt a chill on his back and subconsciously tightened his legs. Although Nannan deserved to die, Li Shuihan clearly vented her hatred towards Zhou Hao on Nannan. Looking at the dying Nannan, Zhou Hao once again saw Li Shuihan's ruthlessness. In the following days, Zhou Hao and Li Shuihan stayed in Jakarta and commanded the First Army and Special Forces scattered across Indonesia. Knowing that Prabowo was eyeing Indonesian Chamber of Commerce covetously, Li Shuihan sent a portion of her people to protect Pang Jinting and his family. She also prepared a few places to hide. Fortunately, when there was a conflict, they could immediately hide in safe places. Li Shuihan originally wanted Pang Jinting and his family to secretly send them out of Indonesia, but Zhou Hao was worried that Pang Jinting and his family had already fallen into Prabowo's surveillance. If she rashly sent her family out of Indonesia, it would arouse Prabowo's suspicion. Therefore, Pang Jinting and the others only used the excuse of going abroad to do public work and let a small number of direct relatives leave Indonesia. On the other hand, after learning that the Shiva sect was controlled by Prabowo, Zhou Hao was filled with hatred towards this devil that was covered in the blood of his compatriots. He wanted to assassinate him many times, so that he could avoid the fate of the Hua people being slaughtered. However, after thinking about it, if Prabowo was killed, it would only benefit his biggest competitor, Viranto, and those members of the Congress and military generals who originally supported Prabowo would not be suppressed. At that time, it would be hard to guarantee that some ambitious warlords would use Prabowo's method to fight for power and create chaos for themselves. At that time, it would be the Hua who would be harmed, and the situation would be even more difficult to control. That was why Zhou Hao temporarily suppressed his killing intent towards Prabowo. Time flew by, and very soon, it was March of 1998. Under Zhou Hao's deliberate control, as well as the active participation of the Central and Indonesian Chambers of Commerce, Indonesia's financial market was getting worse and worse, and Indonesia's exchange rate continued to drop, causing many state-owned banks in Indonesia to suffer. The Indonesian government mistakenly thought that all of this was caused by Soros and Julian, those international financial tycoons. They did not know about Zhou Hao's existence at all. Zhou Hao was also happy to watch the Indonesian government pin all of their hatred on Soros. At the same time, he also accelerated the destruction of the Indonesian financial market. During this period, perhaps it was because Li Shuihan vented her hatred towards Zhou Hao on Nannan. Therefore, other than being as cold as before, she had gotten along pretty well with Zhou Hao. However, because Zhou Hao had not touched a woman for half a month, the lust in his body started to stir again. Indonesia had now become a place where danger was brewing. Zhou Hao would not let Zhao Yuqin and the others come over. He did not want to find a random woman to solve the problem. He was even more resistant to sex. Fortunately, he had been busy arranging Indonesia's matters and had shifted his attention, so he did not feel so uncomfortable. However, Zhou Hao's constitution determined that he could not be without a woman for a long time. As time passed, Zhou Hao felt more and more like a wild beast was trapped in his body and wanted to break out at any time. So annoying. Do I really have to find a woman to calm the fire? That night, Zhou Hao returned to his room after the command meeting with Li Shuihan and the others. When he was free, Zhou Hao's lust started to rise and fall again. He knew that if he asked, Pang Jinting would definitely arrange a woman for him immediately, but Zhou Hao did not want to have sex with unfamiliar women because of his lust, especially since the women around Zhou Hao were all rare beauties. Their taste had been raised to a high level. There were not many women in Indonesia who could be compared to Yin Qingqing and the others. Unconsciously, Li Shuihan's figure appeared in Zhou Hao's mind, especially that night when she was being ravaged by him. The fire in Zhou Hao's heart burned even more fiercely. No way. That woman hates me to death. I don't really like her, and I can't bear to treat a woman like this. Zhou Hao had always thought that sex was built on the basis of feelings. It was inappropriate to have sex with a woman he didn't like. He had violated Li Shuihan that time, But it was only because he was angered by her that he acted impulsively. Furthermore, when he thought of the bloody scene of Nanin's lower body, Zhou Hao could not help but shiver. Now, his relationship with Li Shuihan had finally eased up a little. If he offended her again, her hatred towards him would be irreconcilable. It was hard to guarantee that Nanin's fate wouldn't fall on him one day. But the more he knew that this should not be the case, the clearer Li Shuihan's figure in the swimsuit became in his mind. The fire in his heart burned even more fiercely. No, no, no. Something will happen if I think about it again. Zhou Hao shook his head fiercely and hurriedly ran into the bathroom to open the shower. He let the cold water wash his body, hoping to extinguish his fire of desire. Half an hour had passed, but Zhou Hao still had a distressed look on his face as he walked out of the bathroom. Because the moment he touched the water, he could not help but recall the swimming pool and the swimming pool. He could not help but think about what happened that day. Li Shuihan's figure, which was completely exposed, immediately filled his mind. D***, I'm going all out. Zhou Hao gritted his teeth. It's also wrong to do it once, and it's also wrong to do it twice. Without poison, you are not husband. After making up his mind, Zhou Hao casually put on his clothes. He jumped out of the balcony and climbed onto the outer wall of the building. Li Shuihan's room was on the lower floor. Zhou Hao did not walk in and out of the main door because he did not want others to find out about this. The outer wall of the building was very smooth, but Zhou Hao was very skilled. He directly inserted his finger into the outer wall and climbed down quickly. Soon, he arrived at the balcony of Li Shuihan's room. He jumped nimbly and landed lightly on Li Shuihan's balcony. Li Shuihan was sitting in front of a computer. Her fingers were like flying fingers, tapping on the keyboard and writing the mission report for the past few days. She had just finished bathing and her long hair was still wet. She wore a white hanging shirt on her upper body, which accentuated her tall and well-developed chest. She was wearing a pair of short gray shorts which tightly wrapped around her perky butt. Between the shorts and the shirt was a slender, snow-white waist. Li Shuihan wore it casually because she was in her room. However, when Zhou Hao saw her like this, it made it even harder for him to control his burning desire. Zhou Hao quietly landed on the balcony. Li Shuihan did not notice him in the room, but when Zhou Hao saw Li Shuihan's seductive figure, he started to breathe heavily. Li Shuihan immediately noticed him. Li Shuihan did not turn to look at Zhou Hao. She thought that an assassin had invaded, so she immediately reached under the table and took out her special gun, which was as sharp as a knife, and was about to shoot in Zhou Hao's direction. Her reaction and movements were very fast, but Zhou Hao was faster than her. When Li Shuihan took out her gun, Zhou Hao had already appeared in front of her. He grabbed her silver gun and threw it to the ground far away. Li Shuihan also saw that the intruder was Zhou Hao. She immediately thought that Zhou Hao wanted to find her but did not go through the main door. Instead, he sneaked in from the outside. He must have had bad intentions. Knowing that she wasn't a match for Zhou Hao, Li Shuihan, who was deeply afraid of being humiliated again, turned around and fled without saying a word. As long as she left the room and attracted the attention of others, Zhou Hao wouldn't dare to do anything to her. It had to be said that as fourth boss of the First Army, Li Shuihan was very rational and decisive when she came to a critical situation. However, when she turned around and took a second step towards the door, her right wrist was grabbed by Zhou Hao. Zhou Hao's strength was so great that once Li Shuihan was caught, she could not take another step forward. It's over. Li Shuihan cried out in her heart. Zhou Hao pulled her right hand with force, and her entire body was pulled over. Zhou Hao did not say anything. He pulled Li Shuihan to his side and immediately pushed her to the side of the wall. He pressed both of her hands on the wall and put them forward to seal her lips. He violently kissed her. Facing Zhou Hao's strong kiss, Li Shuihan pursed her lips tightly. At the same time, she wanted to raise her knee and hit Zhou Hao's crotch, but because Zhou Hao pressed her against the wall tightly, she could not move her legs. Li Shuihan, who could not break free from Zhou Hao, originally wanted to open her mouth to call for help, but she immediately thought that if her subordinates came in and saw her like this, then her dignity and image would be destroyed. So she opened her mouth a few times, but she could not make a sound. Looking at Zhou Hao, who buried his head in her chest and wreaked havoc, Li Shuihan once again shed tears of humiliation. As a matter of fact, Li Shuihan had been very upset ever since she had been ravaged by Zhou Hao at the edge of the swimming pool. However, she was not a weak girl. She was strong enough to take the damage that Zhou Hao had caused her. She then used her busy work to divert her attention and slowly healed the wound in her heart. However, just as Li Shuihan was about to forget about this matter and treat it as a nightmare, Zhou Hao came again. That nightmare from last time happened again. At this moment, Zhou Hao was filled with guilt towards this cold and arrogant woman. However, things had already reached this point. If he gave up halfway, it would make Zhou Hao even more unhappy. He moved closer to Li Shuihan and looked deeply into her eyes that were filled with hatred. Then, he gently kissed his face and licked the tears on it gently. Then he kissed her forehead, eyes, nose, and finally lips. He was so gentle that it was as if he was kissing a lover. He gently pecked on Li Shuihan's red lips that were like rose petals, and then lightly sucked on it. The room returned to silence. Li Shuihan curled up on the bed and covered her face as she kept sobbing. Zhou Hao laid behind her and gently hugged her shoulder. He did not say anything to comfort her because he knew that it was useless to say anything now. After an unknown amount of time, Li Shuihan stopped crying, but her shoulders were still trembling slightly. Zhou Hao wanted to say something to comfort her, but he heard Li Shuihan's slightly hoarse voice. Your bestial desires have been vented. You can leave now. Fourth boss, Zhou Hao had already regained his rationality after his lust had been greatly relieved. He also knew that he had caused Li Shuihan a lot of harm again. Get lost, I don't want to see you. Li Shuihan's voice was very calm, but her crying and hoarse voice made Zhou Hao's heart tremble slightly. Zhou Hao let out a long sigh. He could only get up and put on his clothes. He said to Li Shuihan, who was still curling up and putting on her clothes like a wounded little beast, Then, I'm leaving. You can go wherever you come from. Don't let anyone see you. Zhou Hao smiled bitterly, but he thought that it was also true. If he went out from the front door and let others see him coming out of Li Shuihan's room, it would be terrible. So Zhou Hao was the same as when he came before. He wanted to jump out of the balcony and climb up the outer wall of the building to leave. At the balcony, he turned around to look at Li Shuihan, who was in the room. He saw her face buried in the pillow, motionless. No one knew what she was thinking. Sighing, his figure disappeared into the thick night sky. Zhou Hao left for a long time before Li Shuihan got up from the bed and limped into the bathroom. Cold water sprayed out of the shower and washed over Li Shuihan. She sat in the bathtub with her legs crossed and looked forward with a dull expression. There was no focus in her eyes, and there was only confusion. Clear water kept sliding down her face. It was unknown whether it was the water from the shower or her tears. It said that men are animals with lower bodies, often controlled by desire, and do things that make themselves regret in a moment of impulse. The current Zhou Hao was like this. When he returned to his room and thought about what he had done to Li Shuihan, Zhou Hao felt guilty and also felt sorry for Big Boss. This was because Big Boss had asked Zhou Hao to come to Indonesia to watch over the First Army, which was also to take charge of the overall situation. Now, Zhou Hao had repeatedly violated Li Shuihan. If Big Boss knew about this, Zhou Hao was afraid that he would have a hard time explaining it to him. He hit the evil dragon that had calmed down in his crotch. Zhou Hao said with regret, "It's all your fault. Can't you be a little more obedient? It's too late to regret now. How are you going to explain this to Big Boss in the future?" Just like that, Zhou Hao spent the night uneasily. The next morning, someone knocked on the door of the room by the First Army. Mr. Zhou, are you inside? I'm number 89. The ordinary members of the First Army were called by numbers. When Zhou Hao heard that the people from the First Army were looking for him, he thought with a guilty conscience, could it be that Li Shuihan's matter has been exposed and the First Army is coming to settle the score with me? But thinking about it, with Li Shuihan's character, she would not let her subordinate know about this matter even if she died. So this possibility was not big. He went over to open the door and number 89 said, "Mr. Zhou, fourth boss invites you to the meeting room. The leaders have a meeting." Zhou Hao secretly heaved a sigh of relief. The meeting indicated that it was official business. He asked number 89, "Do you know what it is?" "I don't know." Number 89 shook his head honestly. Zhou Hao, who had put on his clothes, immediately went to the meeting room. As expected, he saw that the commanders of the various troops were there. Those who needed to stay behind and could not come were attending the meeting through the military channel. Zhou Hao also saw Li Shuihan as he had wished. He saw her sitting upright on the main seat. The others looked no different from before. After Zhou Hao came, Li Shuihan only glanced at him casually and did not say anything. "Fourth boss, morning." Zhou Hao smiled and greeted Li Shuihan. "Cut the crap. Quickly sit down. The meeting is about to start." Li Shuihan did not even look at Zhou Hao. Zhou Hao could only listen to her and sit beside the conference table. He heard Li Shuihan say to the crowd, "I just received news that Suharto, who was originally scheduled to return to Egypt the day after tomorrow, has temporarily decided to go to Australia and Liechtenstein to pay a visit. He will be sent back to Indonesia on the 25th of March. When Li Shuihan said this news, the expressions of the commanders in the conference room changed. Even Zhou Hao frowned because Suharto was one of the key factors in their plan for Indonesia. He involved many details of the plan. For example, the central government wanted to let Wahid announce the evidence of Suharto's family occupying the country's property through the media the day Suharto returned to the country. Prabowo, Viranto, and other forces with ambition for the position of president would officially start a fight for power after Suharto returned to the country. Wahid, who had the support of the central government and the Huaran Chamber of Commerce, would also launch an attack on the position of president at that time. However, now that Suharto had temporarily decided to delay the return of the country, these plans had to be adjusted. Zhou Hao rubbed his chin and said, "Could it be that that old turtle Suharto knew that Indonesia's political situation was in danger, so he deliberately hid outside and did not dare to come back?" In the original history, Suharto ended his interview with Egypt and was dragged down the stage after returning to the country. "It's possible," one of the commanders said. After the financial storm happened, the people in Congress were very dissatisfied with him. Previously, he used the excuse of leaving Indonesia to avoid being in the limelight. This old turtle. Another commander violently pounded the table. Next, due to Suharto's delay in returning to the country, many details of the plan needed to be adjusted. Zhou Hao and Li Shuihan arranged tasks for each commander according to the actual situation and made them take precautions. This meeting lasted for the entire morning before it ended. After the others left, Zhou Hao saw Li Shuihan still sitting on the chair. Seeing Zhou Hao looking at her, Li Shuihan coldly snorted and was about to stand up and leave. But just as she stood up from the chair, Li Shuihan's eyebrows suddenly wrinkled and her hands pressed on the table, not daring to move. Zhou Hao immediately guessed that she must have not recovered from the injury last night. He quickly walked over and wanted to help her up. But before he touched Li Shuihan, she swung her hand with force and shook Zhou Hao's hand away. She said coldly, "Get lost. I don't want you to be hypocritical." Zhou Hao still wanted to help, but Li Shuihan gave him a fierce look. Helpless, Zhou Hao could only walk away. Li Shuihan also took a deep breath and slowly walked towards the door. She tried to slow down her footsteps as much as possible to avoid pulling on the wound. However, her face was cold, and she stubbornly endured the burning pain. Looking at Li Shuihan's careful figure, Zhou Hao sighed. Originally, with Li Shuihan's injury, it was not suitable for her to get off the bed today. But because of Suharto's sudden incident, she did not want others to see the clues, so she persisted and endured the pain in her heart alone. What a stubborn woman. Next, there were people in the lower ranks to deal with the official matters. High-level leaders like Zhou Hao and Li Shuihan were very free. Zhou Hao originally wanted to go and see Li Shuihan, but he was afraid that Li Shuihan would not want to see him and cause trouble for herself, so he endured it and did not go. But he spent the whole day feeling guilty. He persisted until the next night. Zhou Hao finally could not hold it in and decided to go and see Li Shuihan. This time, he did not sneak in from the balcony. Instead, he brought the black jade ointment that had a deep healing effect on external injuries and went straight to the door of Li Shuihan's room. However, the others were either on missions outside or in their own rooms to make reports and plans. The corridor was empty, and no one saw Zhou Hao looking for Li Shuihan. He hesitated for a moment. Zhou Hao knocked on Li Shuihan's door. "Who is it?" Li Shuihan's cold voice came from inside. "It's me." Hearing Zhou Hao's voice, the room fell silent. Li Shuihan also did not speak. Zhou Hao knew that Li Shuihan did not want to see him. He stood at the door for a long time and finally sighed. He turned around and was about to leave when he heard the sound of the door opening behind him. Zhou Hao's footsteps paused and he turned around in surprise. Sure enough, the door opened and Li Shuihan was standing at the back. Her face was still expressionless. She said coldly, "Come in." Although Li Shuihan's face was as cold as ice, she was willing to open the door for him. At the very least, it indicated that the relationship between them had not reached an irreconcilable stage. Zhou Hao walked in happily and closed the door. Li Shuihan did not even look at Zhou Hao. She walked straight to the bed and took off her clothes one by one, exposing her extremely beautiful jade body to Zhou Hao. Then, she spread her hands and lay cross-shaped on the bed. Zhou Hao stood there and was stunned. He didn't understand why Li Shuihan did this. What are you doing?" Zhou Hao asked in surprise. Li Shuihan, who was lying on the bed, faced the sky flower and said expressionlessly, "Didn't you come to find me to satisfy your bestial desires? Then come, quickly finish it, and then get lost." Zhou Hao was speechless. Clearly, he did not expect Li Shuihan to say such words. However, thinking about it, it was indeed him who hurt her too deeply. In order to satisfy his selfish desires, He did not care if she was willing or not and forcefully violated her. No one would be able to forgive him. Li Shuihan slightly tilted her head to look at Zhou Hao. Seeing that his expression was very complicated, she sneered and said, "What's wrong? Are you cowering again today? You looked like a man the day before yesterday, but why are you cowering like a turtle today?" Zhou Hao's heart was also filled with anger when he saw Li Shuihan's mocking and disdainful gaze. He snorted and said, "Mother, I originally wanted to see your injuries and tell you that I'm sorry. Yet you said such a thing. Humph. You really eat hard, but not soft. Say sorry? Do you think saying sorry is useful?" Li Shuihan's smile became even colder. "Since it's useless, then there's no need to say anymore. We might as well continue to make mistakes." Zhou Hao also sneered. He felt that Li Shuihan could easily arouse his anger. This was similar to Situ Jianying. When facing Situ Jianying, Zhou Hao's violent side was always easily revealed. Zhou Hao also took off his clothes and climbed onto the bed. He held his hands up and looked down at Li Shuihan. Li Shuihan did not show any weakness and looked at Zhou Hao. However, after seeing the burning passion in Zhou Hao's eyes, she could not resist it. She could only turn her face away and no longer look at Zhou Hao. Zhou Hao did not stand on ceremony with her. He bent down and played with her plump breasts. The kiss marks that he left on the surface the day before could still be vaguely seen. It could stimulate Zhou Hao even more. 3. Li Shuihan did not move, and just let Zhou Hao do whatever he wanted. At the same time, she pressed her lips together and did not want to let herself make a sound. After a while, Zhou Hao turned her over and looked at the place where he had heavily injured the day before. Zhou Hao couldn't help but say, "It's done so quickly? To think that I brought black jade ointments over to apply it on you." Li Shuihan, who was lying on the bed, said in a low voice, "Do you think you are the only one with black jade ointments?" When Zhou Hao heard this, he suddenly understood. That's right. The black jade ointment was produced by the military. As the trump card of China, the First Army would naturally have equipment. Zhou Hao, who was on Li Shuihan's back, kissed her fair and smooth back. He suddenly got up and walked into the bathroom. Li Shuihan felt a sudden light weight on her back, so she did not naively think that Zhou Hao wanted to let her go. She saw that Zhou Hao had already come out of the bathroom. She coldly asked, "Where did you go?" Zhou Hao smiled and shook the thing in his hand. It was a specially made olive oil bottle for skincare. He smiled and said, "Although you said I am not a good person, I do not want you to get hurt again." Humph, humph, humph. This olive oil's lubricant effect should be pretty good. The main component of this product for skincare after bathing was olive oil. It was in the bathroom of the suite in the building. It should have been prepared for guests by the Golden Court Group. Zhou Hao had seen it in his room before, so he knew about its existence. Li Shuihan heard Zhou Hao say lubricant effect, and her cold face turned red again. Before she could say anything, Zhou Hao had already returned to the bed and poured the olive oil on Li Shuihan. Li Shuihan smelled the debauchery fragrance of her own gene liquid. She turned her face to the side and gritted her teeth. "You beast in clothes." Zhou Hao, who had already been satisfied, still maintained that intimate position with Li Shuihan. He hugged her and smiled. "Fourth boss, I say we are all like this. I might as well eat your virgin body too." Li Shuihan's expression changed and said nervously, "Zhou Hao, if you dare to break my body, I will die for you to see. Let's see how you will explain this to Big Boss." She knew that if Zhou Hao tried to force her, she would not be able to resist, so she could only use death to force him. Zhou Hao saw that Li Shuihan's expression did not seem to be joking. He was really afraid that she would not understand and do something stupid. He hurriedly said, "Don't. I was just saying, if you are not willing, then forget it." Based on Zhou Hao's habit of using force on himself, Li Shuihan, who originally thought that he would not care about his own will to snatch her chastity, heaved a sigh of relief and said, "All right, you are done, right? If you're done, then hurry up and get lost." Zhou Hao did not leave immediately like the last time. Instead, he played rogue. He hugged Li Shuihan's jade body and said with a smile, "No, I am so tired. I have no strength to leave. I will sleep here with you tonight." You be asterisk starred. "Get lost," Li Shuihan said sharply, thinking that she should be the one without strength. "Anyway, I can't walk anymore. If you are powerful, you can carry me back." Li Shuihan was furious. Not to mention whether she still had the strength to get off the bed or not. Even if she still had strength, it would be a problem to carry Zhou Hao back to his room and not let others find out. Helpless, Li Shuihan could only let him lie on her bed. Zhou Hao flicked his finger. With a shot, it hit the switch on the wall. He turned off the light with his finger and covered himself and Li Shuihan with a blanket. Li Shuihan saw him turn off the light with the genuine aura and angrily said, "You can use the genuine aura to turn off the light, so you don't have the strength to roll back?" Hugging Li Shuihan and letting her lean back into his embrace, Zhou Hao shamelessly smiled and said, "That is already my last bit of genuine aura. All right. It's getting late. Let's sleep earlier." In the darkness, Li Shuihan's angry voice could be heard from time to time. You just sleep. Why are you touching your feet?" Although they were already very close on the bed, Li Shuihan still had the same fierce look towards Zhou Hao in front of others. In fact, when they were on the bed, Li Shuihan's attitude towards Zhou Hao did not seem to be any better. However, Zhou Hao had expected her to be stubborn and not soft, so he just charged and attacked her, enjoying the beauty of this long-legged beauty. He had a taste of the sweetness from Li Shuihan. In the following days, Zhou Hao would sneak into Li Shuihan's room almost every night. Although Li Shuihan still had the same cold expression, every time Zhou Hao came, she would automatically let Zhou Hao do whatever he wanted. Except for the fact that Li Shuihan's virgin body was not destroyed. Almost every part of her body had been developed by Zhou Hao. As long as it could be used, Zhou Hao would not let go of it. He did not have to worry about Su Lin and the others because he pitted them like before, which made Zhou Hao very happy. That night, Zhou Hao sat comfortably on the bed. Zhou Hao asked Li Shuihan, "Fourth boss, we are all like this now. Why don't you just give your body to me? Why do you always ask this question? Is it annoying?" Li Shuihan endured the increasingly intense feeling and panted, "I have said it many times. If you dare to use force to break my body, I will die for you to see." I know. You have also said this many times." Zhou Hao felt helpless. His relationship with Li Shuihan continued to deepen. Zhou Hao's ambition towards her true virginity also became bigger and bigger. He always wanted to take this stubborn and cold, long-legged beauty for himself. Although Zhou Hao did not know if Li Shuihan liked him in her heart, it was still the same as in the past. Her hatred towards him did not decrease at all. However, Li Shuihan already had a practical relationship with him, so how could Zhou Hao let go? He said suspiciously, "Fourth boss, you are not willing to let me break your body. Don't tell me you want to give your first night to someone else." 2. Even if Li Shuihan did not like him, Zhou Hao would not allow such a thing to happen. Some men could let the woman they liked leave. They even pretended to be cool and said, "If you love her, let her go and let her pursue your own happiness." Zhou Hao was not such a person, especially after experiencing life and death experiences. He would not do such stupid and cowardly things. Perhaps it would be selfish to do so, but it was selfish to do so. If a person didn't want to die, the heavens would punish him. Zhou Hao knew that he couldn't be truly selfless. Li Shuihan, who heard Zhou Hao's words, immediately flew into a rage. "You son of *th. I have been humiliated by you, you beast. Do you think I can still marry someone else? It's all your fault. It's all your fault. You beast who ruined my innocence." Li Shuihan's concept was still very traditional. She believed that she had been sullied by Zhou Hao, so she could not marry anyone else. Zhou Hao faced Li Shuihan's outburst, but in his heart, he was secretly happy. "It's even better if you can't marry. Anyway, if anyone else dares to marry you, I will castrate them first and then kill them." In fact, Zhou Hao didn't know how to describe the relationship between him and Li Shuihan. They were supposed to be lovers, but Li Shuihan clearly hated him and didn't like him. Even Zhou Hao himself couldn't tell if he liked Li Shuihan more or desired her more. He should call her an ordinary friend. The two of them had the most direct relationship. Li Shuihan could not be with another man anymore, and Zhou Hao would not allow it either. After hugging Li Shuihan and sleeping for the whole night, Zhou Hao was finally woken up by a hurried knock on the door. Li Shuihan, who had been tormented by Zhou Hao for the middle of the night, was very tired. She twisted her body and murmured, "What time is it?" Zhou Hao looked at the bright sunlight outside the window and saw that the clock on the bedside table showed that it was already past 11 o'clock in the morning. He heard number 89's voice coming from outside the door. Fourth boss, there's a riot. Rioting?" Zhou Hao and Li Shuihan were shocked. Both of them sat up from the bed. Li Shuihan quickly got off the bed to get dressed. At the same time, she asked number 89 outside the door, "What is going on? Why was there a sudden riot? Didn't I tell you to monitor Prabowo closely? Prabowo has always been under our watch. The riot broke out 3 minutes ago, and according to our men, Prabowo has been here for the past 3 days. He didn't give any orders at all, and he was very surprised after the riot broke out." Number 89 hurriedly said, "Fourth boss, we went to Mr. Zhou's room to find him, but he was not there. He did not bring any phone or communication equipment. We could not find him. Li Shuihan heard this and glared at Zhou Hao, who was also in a hurry to put on his clothes. She thought, of course you can't find him. This guy has been with me all night. Of course, Li Shuihan would never let her subordinates know about her secret with Zhou Hao even if she was beaten to death. Zhou Hao did not have the time to care about Li Shuihan's thoughts at this moment. After putting on his pants, he immediately went to the road and looked down at Jakarta. As expected, he saw thick smoke coming from a few streets in the distance. Saboteurs with steel pipes, machetes, and other weapons also walked out of the cars. They burned, robbed, and attacked the people on the streets crazily. In the blink of an eye, a few people fell into a pool of blood. As for foreigner and the local residents, many of them screamed and ran away. Those thugs did not care about them and only targeted the people. In his previous life, Zhou Hao could only indirectly understand the process of the Indonesian Tsinghua incident from the pictures and news on the internet. Now that he was in the real world and had witnessed the tragedy, he was so angry that his fingers were about to burst. At the same time, he was also very confused, because according to what he knew, the tragedy of the Jushio incident was carried out by Prabowo after Suharto's visit and was about to return to the country. However, Suharto was still in Liechtenstein. According to the original schedule, he would only return to Indonesia after 6 days, so Prabowo shouldn't have given the order so early. Moreover, number 89 just said that Prabowo was also very surprised when he found out about the riot. But now is not the time to think about these things. If the situation continued to develop, there would be a lot of casualties in Indonesia. At the same time, Zhou Hao saw more than 10 Hummer off-road vehicles on the street below. Then, men in masks and automatic rifles rushed down from the off-road vehicles and fired at the lawless thugs without hesitation. The shooting skills of these people were very accurate. When they killed the thugs, they would not hurt innocent Chinese people. Moreover, they were very organized. The effect of using 3 people as a team to stop the thugs was very obvious. Zhou Hao could tell at a glance that those people wearing masks were from his own special forces. The reason they were wearing masks was because they could not let the Indonesian government know that China had sent people over. The special forces reacted in time. They arrived within a few minutes of the riot. At the same time, many buses appeared on the roads nearby. Those people also got on the buses under the protection of the special forces. Then, those buses quickly left for the secret shelter that First Army had prepared. Zhou Hao turned around and saw Li Shuihan had already put on her clothes. She even threw his shirt over and said, "Get back to your room. If anyone sees you in my room, I will teach you a lesson." Zhou Hao was not in the mood to argue with her. He nodded and said, "Hurry up and tell the people below to stop those thugs and protect the Chinamen." "Do I need you to tell me? Hurry up and leave, or how am I going to open the door?" Thus, Zhou Hao used his martial arts and left the balcony. He quickly returned to his room and walked out of the room through the main door. Coincidentally, he saw the First Army that was rushing over. "Mr. Zhou, where have you been? There was a riot down there." "I just went somewhere else." "When did a riot happen?" "Quick, take me there to take a look." Zhou Hao immediately rushed to the meeting room. Li Shuihan and a few senior commanders were already there. They were nervously arranging and commanding the movements of the various troops. Zhou Hao immediately asked as soon as he came in, "How is the situation?" One of the commanders said, "Just as we expected, the 6 cities of Jakarta, Siswi, and the like were in chaos at the same time. 2 days ago, we sent a portion of the Chinese into our secret shelter. We also sent people to pick up the other people in the city, and those thugs were suppressed by us. However, due to the sudden outbreak of the riot, there were still a few casualties." Zhou Hao said with a dark face, "Tell our brothers to be careful. Many of those thugs were originally soldiers and policemen, and they even carried guns and ammunition. It's very dangerous." "It's okay. Our people are all equipped with bulletproof vests. Furthermore, with those low-ranking Indonesian military police, how could they be our match?" Another commander said proudly. Zhou Hao nodded. "What about President Pang and the others?" "Prabowo wanted to take advantage of the chaos to assassinate them. Our people protected President Pang and the others as soon as the riot happened. They are safe now." F***CK. Why did it happen so early? Zhou Hao said bitterly. The original 1998 Indonesia Tsinghua University incident happened in mid-May, but because of Zhou Hao's participation, Indonesia's financial market collapsed much faster than before. Zhou Hao estimated that the Tsinghua University incident might happen earlier. However, logically speaking, this should have been ordered by Prabowo when Suharto finished his visit and was preparing to return to the country. However, Suharto's visit was still in full swing, so this conflict occurred earlier than Zhou Hao had expected. Which part of the event has gone wrong? Zhou Hao was thinking in his heart. However, he didn't have time to think about it now. Since the matter had happened earlier, the original plan had to be started immediately. Zhou Hao said to Li Shuihan and the others, "Hurry up and report the situation to the central government. Also, let Wahid and the people from the Indonesian provinces prepare for action immediately." Li Shuihan said, "We have already reported to the central government. They have also allowed us to act. Then let's do as planned." "Oh right, continue to monitor Prabowo." Wait, thinking of Prabowo, Zhou Hao could not help but think of Prabowo's biggest competitor, Viranto. According to what Zhou Hao knew, Viranto was a fox even more cunning and ferocious than Prabowo. Would such a person let Prabowo deal with him? He immediately said to Li Shuihan, "Other than keeping an eye on Prabowo, send someone else to keep an eye on Viranto." "You suspect Viranto? Hey, where are you going?" Seeing that Zhou Hao was about to leave, Li Shuihan quickly stopped him. "I want to go down and take a look. There are also people from China who are in danger of dying. How can I stand idly by?" In his previous life, he was unable to save his fellow countrymen who were killed in Indonesia. This time, Zhou Hao would not miss this opportunity. As for the matter of commanding, Zhou Hao was not a military talent anyway. He just had to hand it over to those commanders. After he finished speaking, he rushed out without looking back. Li Shuihan looked at Zhou Hao's disappearing back and her expression became complicated. After a while, she snorted. She said to the commanders, "You are in charge of commanding the troops. You must ensure the safety of the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and the local people." After saying that, she brought more than 10 members of the First Army and quickly left the meeting room. Before leaving the building, Li Shuihan and the people of the First Army all put on masks. They had made detailed arrangements a long time ago. They knew that if they sent out armed forces to protect the people of China, they would definitely provoke the Indonesian military. Therefore, in the 6 cities of Jakarta, there was nothing that could prove their identity on the special forces that were fighting against the saboteurs and protecting the Chinamen. This was to prevent Indonesian officials from finding evidence against China when they were unfortunately sacrificed. Moreover, each of them had brought enough poison to end their lives within 2 seconds to prevent them from being captured by the other party. To outsiders, the central government would not admit to this operation and would not allow international public opinion to fall into a passive and disadvantageous position. After coming out of the building, Li Shuihan and the rest saw that the originally bustling street outside had now become a battlefield with billowing smoke. Their original estimations were right. Those thugs indeed had the support of the government behind their backs. The weapons in their hands were not something that ordinary people could possess. Fortunately, the special forces sent by the central government were all elites of the army. They were also proficient in street fighting. It was more than enough to deal with the thugs disguised as soldiers and policemen. 5. Looking around, she could not find Zhou Hao's figure, so Li Shuihan asked her subordinate beside her, "Where was the first place that there was a riot?" Her subordinate immediately said, "On the other side of Shangnan Street." Li Shuihan's heart skipped a beat because this Shangnan Street was the street where the Old River Hotel was located. Because Shangnan Street was the first place a riot broke out, the casualties there were more severe. One of Li Shuihan's subordinates said, "According to the report we just received, the thugs there have very strong firepower, and it will be difficult for our people to suppress them." As they were talking, they saw the thugs on the other side notice Li Shuihan and the rest. 2 of them raised their shotgun and shot at Li Shuihan and the rest. Li Shuihan was a first-class expert, and her subordinates were also the elites of the First Army. So when she saw the 2 thugs raise their guns, she immediately dodged sideways to avoid the scattered bullets with a larger range. Li Shuihan somersaulted forward and at the same time pulled out 2 silver-gray pistols in the air. She aimed at the 2 thugs and shot them several times, accurately hitting the hearts and glabella of the 2 thugs. She did not use her unique pistol to avoid being recognized when she was on a mission in the future. After killing the 2 of them, the other thugs also focused their firepower on Li Shuihan and the others. On the other side, the special forces did not show any weakness and used even more fierce firepower to suppress the thugs. The leader even shouted at Li Shuihan, "You guys go quickly, we will cover you." Li Shuihan slightly nodded her head and signaled. She led her subordinates around a burning bus and quickly walked into an alley behind them, heading towards Shangnan Street. Shangnan Street was only 4 or 5 kilometers away from here. Not to mention Li Shuihan, who was good at Qinggong. Those members of the First Army would often train with weights that were dozens of kilometers long. This short distance was naturally not a problem. In less than 5 minutes, they had arrived at Shangnan Street. However, the scene in front of them made Li Shuihan and the others furious. They saw that the shops on both sides of the street were burning with fire and smoke. Many of the cars were burnt and parked on the street. There were also many corpses lying in pools of blood. Most of these corpses were of the Han people. Not only were they young and strong men, but there were also many old, weak women and children. Moreover, almost all of the women had been raped before they died. Some of them even had their chests gouged out, and their lower bodies were burnt into a bloody mess. They had died a horrible death. Li Shuihan also saw 11 or 12-year-old boy being stabbed in the throat by a steel pipe and nailed to a lamp post by the roadside. These brutes who slaughtered the people of China, their crimes were truly heinous. Other than the people of China, there were also some corpses on the ground that were armed thugs. They should have been killed by the special forces. At this time, there were dozens of armed thugs on Shangnan Street. They used the shops on both sides as a cover, blocking the special forces at the end of the street so that they could not attack at the moment. Since Li Shuihan and the rest sneaked in from an alley in Shangnan Street, the thugs who were busy firing at the special forces did not notice them. Those beasts. Fourth boss, let's go and get rid of those **stards. Witnessing the deaths of those people, the people of the First Army hated those thugs to the bone. Li Shuihan said, "Leave 2 people with me. The rest of you go and kill those thugs. Help the special forces eliminate them." Yes. Other than the 2 men who stayed behind to follow Li Shuihan, the rest of them immediately rushed towards the thugs. Li Shuihan did not delay any longer and quickly led her 2 men towards the Old River Hotel. When they arrived at Old River Hotel, Li Shuihan saw Zhou Hao as expected. However, the situation in the Old River restaurant made the usually strong Li Shuihan want to cry. The guests in the restaurant were all killed. Blood stained the floor of the restaurant red. In front of the counter, a naked female corpse with torn pants was sitting there. Her stomach had been cut open by a knife, and blood flowed out from her organs. There was also a deep cut on her neck, and her throat had been cruelly cut. The woman who had died a horrible death was none other than Zhang's wife. Zhou Hao's back was facing Li Shuihan and the others, and he was squatting in the middle of the restaurant, motionless. No one could see his expression clearly. Li Shuihan slowly walked over. Just as she was about to call out to him, she saw a little girl lying on the ground in front of Zhou Hao. It was old Zhang's 9-year-old daughter, Deng Deng Deng. Li Shuihan covered her mouth. Tears uncontrollably flowed out of her eyes. Deng 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 was lying on the cold ground naked. His face was pale and his eyes were wide open. There was no sign of life in his eyes. His mouth was still open. It was a face filled with extreme fear and pain. It was easy to imagine how cruel she had been when she had died. A wooden stick as thick as a small arm was deeply stabbed into the bottom of the body, leaving only a small part of it outside. The young Deng Deng clearly died a tragic death in this kind of inhumane beast trade. Deng Deng. How can they do it? Deng 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 is only 9 years old. Li Shuihan sobbed and said. Zhou Hao, who was squatting in front of Deng Deng's corpse, had no expression on his face. There was neither joy nor anger. It was as if he had lost his emotions. At this moment, a faint moan could be heard from the other side. Zhou Hao rushed over in a flash and found out that the moan was from old Jiang. He saw old Jiang lying under a table with a sharp knife in his chest. Blood was flowing out from the wound. Old Jiang. Zhou Hao held up old Jiang's upper body and looked at the exposed hilt of the saber in front of his chest. His heart was filled with grief and indignation, because the saber had pierced through old Jiang's heart. Even a great Luo divine immortal wouldn't be able to save him. Old Jiang, who had yet to stop breathing, had tears all over his face as he looked at Zhou Hao. He cried weakly, They. In front of me, raped Xiang and Deng Deng. Wuru. They are beasts. They are inhumane beasts. The one who killed Deng Deng was a foreign man. I know him. He is the head of the security department of the Shiva cult, Frank. Heir. Before he could say the name of the murderer, Zhang's expression suddenly froze. His eyes lost focus and he was dead. Zhou Hao closed his eyes and lowered his head. His face was deathly silent. After a long time, he covered old Zhang's eyes with his hand and said calmly, Old Zhang, don't worry. I will avenge your family. Right at this moment, one of the First Army, who was ordered by Li Shuihan to kill those thugs, appeared at the entrance of Old Jiang Hotel. He shouted at Li Shuihan and the others, Fourth boss, a large group of thugs are rushing here. The leader is that Francis from Shiva. The special forces asked us to retreat quickly and rush back to the secret shelter. Are you sure it's Francis? Zhou Hao turned around and asked the First Army, who was wearing a mask. The man was shocked by the coldness in Zhou Hao's eyes and answered subconsciously, Yes. Although old Jiang did not tell him the full name of the murderer who killed Deng Deng Deng, Zhou Hao already knew that the person Old Jiang was talking about was Francis, the director of security in Shiva. He was a soldier who had served in the British SAS assault team. He could feel the cold aura coming from Zhou Hao's body. Li Shuihan pressed on his shoulder and said, Zhou Hao, what do you want to do? I will go and see Francis and those executioners. Zhou Hao's tone was still very calm. I know how you feel, and I am even more sad about the death of Deng 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 and the others than you. Li Shuihan wiped away her tears and returned to her usual strong self. She said, but don't forget our responsibility. We are not going to kill those thugs. We are going to do our best to protect the Chinamen. Zhou Hao looked at Li Shuihan and said, I didn't forget. You and the special forces should retreat first and evacuate the other people. I will stay here alone. Even if I retreat, it will be much easier. Don't worry about me. Li Shuihan was a stubborn person, but once Zhou Hao made a decision, he would be even more determined than Li Shuihan. After giving Li Shuihan a deep look, Zhou Hao walked towards the door and picked up a mask from the ground to wear on his face. This mask was originally an accessory of Old River Restaurant. When the riot happened, it fell to the ground and was stained with the blood of Old Jiang's family of 3 and other people. Zhou Hao's figure quickly disappeared from the doorway. Li Shuihan from the First Army asked, Fourth boss, what should we do next? Li Shuihan hesitated for a moment and then said, You guys retreat with the special forces. I will stay here. Fourth boss. There were hundreds or thousands of thugs outside. Many of them even had guns in their hands. Although Li Shuihan's martial arts were strong, her fists were not able to fight against 4 hands, and she was afraid that it would be very dangerous. Therefore, her subordinates did not want her to take the risk. This is an order. Leave quickly. Li Shuihan's face was cold, and her tone was also very stern. After all, they were used to obeying orders from their superiors. The people of the First Army had no choice but to retreat in the end. As for Zhou Hao, when he walked out of the Old River Hotel and arrived at Shangnan Street, he saw many large trucks at the end of the street. Saboteurs with weapons in their hands walked out from the trucks. There were probably hundreds of people walking towards them. When they saw a man wearing a strange mask standing in the middle of the street, those thugs laughed out loud. They thought that this guy was really stupid. He actually dared to face hundreds of them alone. The few people in front of them all raised their rifles at the same time and fired a few shots at Zhou Hao. A few bullets hit Zhou Hao's body, but he still stood there as steady as Mount Tai. That guy has bulletproof vest. The few people who shot shouted. As they spoke, Zhou Hao suddenly raised his hands and waved them in their direction. When these thugs were still confused by Zhou Hao's actions, they suddenly felt a gust of cold wind rushing towards them. Whoa! Miserable cries immediately sounded. They saw that the 20-something people in front of them unbelievably broke into several pieces. Dark red blood also flew into the air along with the severed limbs, forming a very strange scene. On the streets filled with smoke and smoke, more than 20 Indonesian thugs seemed to have been slaughtered by some kind of invisible and incomparably sharp weapon. Their entire bodies were torn apart, and the blood that sprayed out from their bodies formed strange red flowers in the air. Those who were killed instantly were still alive, but those who were not able to breathe in a short period of time could taste what it meant to be alive rather than dead. Those who had their limbs cut off and only had their bare torso left could only lie on the ground and scream endlessly. The pain went deep into their hearts, but they could not move at all. Some of them were cut in half at the waist, and their intestines and internal organs were scattered all over the ground. They did not die, but because they were afraid of death, they crazily stuffed back the internal organs and intestines that had leaked out of their bodies in an attempt to preserve their lives. There were also some who crawled towards their lower bodies, dragging a shocking bloody scar on the ground. At this moment, they, who were supposed to be executioners, had become the targets of slaughter. The strong smell of blood and heart-wrenching screams made the street seem like an Azura hell. When the thugs saw their 20 or so companions being slaughtered on the ground like pigs and dogs, they couldn't help but feel frightened. The masked man in the distance waved his hands again. One of the agile Indonesian men shouted, "Get down! That guy knows magic." With that, he immediately fell to the ground. The others also realized what had happened. When they remembered that after the man had waved his arms, their 20 or so companions had suffered heavy casualties, so they instinctively fell to the ground. More than 10 of them, who were slow to react, did not have time to lie down. They felt a gust of cold wind blow on their bodies. Then, their eyes were dyed red by the blood that sprayed out of their bodies, and they ended up in the same state as the 20 or so people. Hurry up and shoot him to death. That must be the devil. Quickly kill him. If we don't kill him, all of us will die. The Indonesian shouted again and took the lead to shoot Zhou Hao. The rest of the people also picked up their guns and attacked Zhou Hao in fear and anger. The trained soldiers and policemen split into two groups and surrounded Zhou Hao from both sides of the street. Facing the bullets, Zhou Hao was not afraid at all. He did not take half a step back. Instead, he rushed towards the thugs. The incoming bullets were all blocked by his protective genuine aura. None of them could touch him. There was a small burning truck in front of him. Zhou Hao, who had rushed over, lifted his leg and kicked it. The small truck, which was a few tons heavy, was sent flying by his kick and crashed into the thug on the other side. Run! Seeing the giant flying toward them, the thugs did not dare to stay where they were and ran away. However, because they had a lot of people, they were blocked off in order to escape, and there was even a situation where people were stepping on them. At that moment, the small truck had already landed and crushed a few thugs into meat paste on the spot. Then, the van that was burning suddenly exploded, instantly killing more than 10 people in the surroundings. A few people who were on fire were rolling on the ground, screaming, trying to put out the fire on their bodies. In less than a minute, 50 to 60 thugs had been killed by Zhou Hao, which made the rest of them even more terrified. Especially when they saw Zhou Hao's murderous eyes behind the mask, it made them feel like they were in an ice cave. At this time, several cannonballs with white smoke fell from the sky to Zhou Hao's side. Zhou Hao stopped, and those cannonballs landed on the ground beside him or hit him directly. Immediately, there was a violent explosion, and hundreds and thousands of small shrapnel flew out, shattering the windows of the surrounding buildings. These were grenades with a diameter of 85 millimeters. Each of them contained 900 shrapnel, which could kill people within 200 square meters. The flickering flames and rolling smoke drowned Zhou Hao. The thugs who were deeply afraid of him also cheered excitedly. The few people in the distance who held grenades in their hands were even more happy as they clapped their hands to celebrate. "That devil is not dead yet," someone shouted, and the thugs' cheers immediately died down. They nervously looked at Zhou Hao and saw that there was still a figure standing in the thick smoke. When the thick smoke dispersed, they saw Zhou Hao still standing there. Other than his clothes being slightly torn, there was no sign of injury. It made everyone suck in a breath of cold air and moan at the same time. What kind of monster is this? While everyone was in a state of panic, a small missile flew in front of Zhou Hao with a fiery light. The power of this small missile was many times stronger than a grenade. It was a weapon specially used to counter tanks or armed helicopters. Zhou Hao raised his right hand and used his palm as a knife. He drew a crescent-shaped curve, and the small rocket instantly split into two. It flew past Zhou Hao from both sides. It only exploded when it was more than 10 meters away, creating a strong shock wave and burning heat wave. It knocked over more than 10 thugs not far away, but it did not cause any harm to Zhou Hao. The shock wave and heat wave came from behind, blowing Zhou Hao's clothes and making his clothes flutter. He stood proudly on the spot like a pine tree. His momentum shocked and scared people. Zhou Hao stood still on the spot. His gaze passed the 200 to 300 thugs and landed on the figure hiding behind them. That guy was standing on a pickup truck of a military off-road vehicle. He was carrying a rocket launcher on his shoulder. The small missile just now was launched by him. Although he was very shocked by Zhou Hao's inhuman ability, he did not show any weakness as he looked at Zhou Hao. Zhou Hao had seen this guy's photo before, and he knew that this man was Francis, who old Jiang had told him to kill Deng Deng Deng. Kill that devil. That devil is the enemy of God Shiva. It is the enemy of our Shiva. If we don't kill him, all the Indonesian people will suffer. If we kill that demon, we will be blessed by Shiva and ascend to a happy heaven. Francis, who was standing on the off-road vehicle, shouted in Indonesian, "For God Shiva, for all Indonesian people, kill that demon." The thugs, who were afraid of Zhou Hao, regained their fighting spirit under the instigation of Francis. A few of Francis's trusted subordinates also took the lead and shouted, "Kill that devil! Kill that devil!" Under the incitement of Francis, the hundreds of thugs also began to shout. The dozens of fanatical believers of the Shiva sect in front of them seemed to have taken medicine and crazily rushed towards Zhou Hao. Zhou Hao was not afraid. He walked to the side of the street and grabbed the steel lamppost that was as thick as a thigh and more than 10 meters long. With a push, the lamppost that was rooted in the cement ground was pulled out by Zhou Hao. With a cold shout, Zhou Hao let the lamppost in his hand sweep across the dozen or so people who were running in front of him. With a wave of his hand, the remaining people were sent flying like golf balls. Zhou Hao was not satisfied. He carried this killing weapon and ran towards the thugs, smashing or sweeping. With every swing, he could kill at least 10 people. However, although this weapon could kill the enemies, it could not resist Zhou Hao's strength. After killing over 100 thugs, it broke in half. Even these cruel thugs had never seen such a way of killing. In their eyes, Zhou Hao was a real devil. And the more it was like this, the more they agreed with Francis's nonsense. They believed that only by killing Zhou Hao could they save the Indonesian people and protect the god Shiva they believed in. Therefore, even if their companions were killed, not only did they not escape, but they also made up their minds to sacrifice themselves for humanity. They wanted to kill Zhou Hao, this evil devil. Francis, who was hiding behind the thugs, obviously did not believe in God Shiva. After seeing Zhou Hao's supernatural ability, he decisively prepared to escape. Zhou Hao saw that the murderer wanted to escape, so he didn't agree. He pulled out